Chapter 1555. Soul tablets shattering one by one meant that people were dying one by one. Big Dipper's heart was bleeding. But she couldn't stop. She didn't know who Xian was. She only knew that the person in her arms was the young master of the Undying Emperor clan, the future of the Undying Emperor clan. Big Dipper carried Xian as they sprinted towards the nine-dimensional universe. Along the way, there were experts escorting and protecting them. However, these experts were still too weak in front of the universal enforcers. Soon, Big Dipper brought Xian to the barrier of the nine-dimensional universe. At this moment, the barrier of the nine-dimensional universe had already been opened. Just as Big Dipper was about to bring Xian in, the space above her head suddenly split open. Then, a ray of saber light shot through the starry sky like a meteor. Wherever the saber light passed, ear-piercing tearing sounds reverberated. Big Dipper immediately stopped, pulled out the saber at her waist, and slashed upwards. Boom! The saber light shattered, and Big Dipper brought Xian back several hundred meters. The moment she stopped, she saw 26 black-robed men standing not far from her. Universal enforcers. The leader was a middle-aged man in a black robe. His long hair draped over his shoulders, and his eyes were as sharp as knives. In his right hand he held a sheathed saber. Motion. The commanders of the Universal Enforcers. There were a total of 6 commanders in the Universal Enforcers, and every commander was a powerhouse of a region. Emotion looked at Big Dipper. Without any superfluous words, he suddenly charged forward, unsheathed his saber, and slashed. Heaven and earth split open. Big Dipper's lips curled into a sinister smile. She put down Xian, and her entire body was like a ferocious tiger pouncing on its prey. She also unsheathed her saber and slashed. Boom! A wave of saber light suddenly exploded, and the two of them retreated several thousand meters. In front of them, countless saber lights tore through the air. It was incomparably terrifying. After Big Dipper stopped, she raised her saber with both hands, took a step forward, and roared, slash. The saber fell, and with her at the center, the space around her began to crumble inch by inch. In the distance, Emotion suddenly disappeared. An afterimage tore through the battlefield. When Emotion was about 100 feet away from Big Dipper, he suddenly drew his saber and slashed. Fight head-on. Boom. A wave of saber light suddenly exploded in front of the two. This time, neither of them retreated. Instead, they slashed over 1,000 times. The surrounding space began to crumble bit by bit. The space of the 8-dimensional universe couldn't withstand the power of the two of them. Under their slashes, the entire starry sky was sliced into countless pieces like tofu. It was extremely terrifying. He turned into a sword light and charged into that pitch-black whirlpool. When he entered that pitch-black whirlpool, an Undying Emperor army youth was half kneeling on the ground. His left arm was already missing. If it wasn't for his saber supporting him from the ground, he would have collapsed. And in front of him, there were a total of 45 corpses. Of the 46 people that entered, he was the only one left alive. Not far in front of him stood over 60 people. All of them were universe enforcers that had rushed over from other places. These were universe enforcers that had rushed over from all over the universe. The leader was a young man. He held a spear in his hand and a saber at his waist. Enforcer Commander. This person was one of the 6 commanders of the universe enforcers, Han Feng. Xian quickly walked in front of the last surviving Undying Emperor army man. He wasn't old. He was only in his 20s. At this moment his chest was bleeding nonstop. It was a spear wound. At this moment he slowly fell down. Xian hurriedly caught him. The young man laid in Xian's embrace. He looked at Xian. His breathing was weak. Young master, Xian shook his head. His body gradually trembled. I'm sorry. Within his body, countless amounts of purple energy flowed into the young man's body. The young man turned his head and looked at the corpses on the ground. He was at a loss. My brothers are all dead. As he said that, he looked at Xian. Before coming, Commander Bei said that our mission is to protect your safety. But we don't even know you. But orders are like that. We have no choice but to obey the family head's orders. For the family, we can give up everything. Even if it's death. As he said that, he suddenly took out a necklace and stuffed it into Yi Xian's hands. He said with a trembling voice, Lin City, Shao family? Young master? Help me tell. Shao Fei. I've broken off the engagement. Please don't tell her that I'm dead. Thank you. As he said that, there was no longer any color in his eyes. The purple energy dispersed from his body again. Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. His entire body was trembling. He was too late. When he arrived, the life force in this man's body had already dissipated. The purple energy could heal injuries, but it couldn't bring the dead back to life. Yi Xian gently placed the man on the ground. He looked at the corpses in front of him. He was stunned. They didn't know each other. These people came to protect him, who they didn't know, because of an order, and then they all died here. Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. 2 streams of clear liquid flowed down. He clenched his fists and his entire body couldn't stop trembling. You, in the distance, Han Feng suddenly said, Sinner of misfortune. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were bloodshot. He roared like a wild beast. Since you say that I'm a sinner, then I'll commit a sin for you to see. As he said that, he directly charged out with his sword in hand. Berserk Demon State. The Berserk Demon bloodline that had been suppressed earlier was activated once again. This time, he completely entered the Berserk Demon State. In his mind, there was only slaughter. At this moment, his killing intent had reached a peak state. Seeing Yi Xian rush over like a madman, Han Feng's eyes narrowed. As soon as he said that, he directly charged out. His spear was like a dragon, and a cold light shot out. Boom, boom. Very quickly, a great battle broke out. The entire spatial vortex was directly shattered, and everyone entered the starry sky. After Yi Xian completely entered the Berserk Demon State, his combat strength instantly soared. Especially with the sword spirit in his hand, his combat strength had reached an unprecedented and terrifying level. After all, he was currently in the mortal realm. Although Yi Xian was fighting against dozens of people alone, he still had the advantage in terms of momentum. As the sword light flashed, more and more universal enforcers fell. Every time one of them died, their vitality would be instantly absorbed by Yi Xian. Coupled with the Berserk Demon bloodline, Yi Xian was getting stronger as he fought. In the crowd, Han Feng's expression was extremely ugly. He didn't expect Yi Xian's strength to be so terrifying. Especially Yi Xian's self-recovery ability, it was simply too abnormal. Killing intent. At this moment, there was only one thought in Yi Xian's mind, and that was to kill madly. At this moment, his killing intent swept the surroundings like a wave. Under his powerful killing intent, the minds of the surrounding enforcers were affected. Just like that, the battle continued for an entire hour, and more corpses appeared on the battlefield. At this moment, Yi Xian had killed over 30 enforcers. However, he wasn't in a good state either. Although he had the undying bloodline to recover, his body was still covered in injuries. Especially his shoulder, there was a spear stuck in it. However, Yi Xian was like a killing maniac at the moment. He did not feel pain at all, nor was he afraid of death. The more he fought, the stronger he became. Under the Berserk Demon State, the power of Yi Xian's bloodline became stronger and stronger as if there was no limit. He was breaking through his limits at every moment. Gradually, more and more universal enforcers fell. Suddenly, Han Feng roared angrily, "Everyone, retreat!" At this moment, there were less than 19 enforcers left by his side. He knew that if they continued fighting like this, then his brothers would die here. Because Yi Xian was truly too abnormal under the enhancement of his 2 bloodlines. The enforcers immediately stopped and retreated to the side when they heard Han Feng. Han Feng stared fixedly at Yi Xian. "All of you retreat first. I'll stop him." Yi Xian had gone berserk, and he wouldn't allow all of them to retreat. If they wanted to retreat, Then someone had to stay behind to cover their retreat. However, none of the enforcers retreated. Han Feng turned to look at the enforcers and roared furiously, "This is an order." The enforcers still didn't move. Han Feng spoke fiercely, "This person isn't normal anymore. If we continue fighting him, then we'll be exhausted to death. All of you retreat quickly." The enforcers still didn't move. Han Feng slowly closed his eyes. He'd brought them here, and he knew that they wouldn't leave. They were his brothers who'd gone through life and death with him countless times. Han Feng looked at Yi Xian, who was charging over from afar, and said fiercely, "Brothers, kill the sinner. Today we'll either live together or die together." As soon as he finished speaking, he charged out. Behind him, the 19 enforcers roared furiously in unison, "We'll either live together or die together." With that, the 19 enforcers charged out as well. Pissed. In the distance, a blood-red sword gleam flashed past, and a bloody head was thrown out. An hour later, only Yi Xian and Han Feng were left on the battlefield. Yi Xian's left arm had almost been chopped off by the saber, and it hung on his shoulder. It would fall off with a gentle pull. A long saber was stabbed into his chest, and his entire body was covered in wounds. Even with the immortal bloodline, he couldn't fully recover. In the distance, Han Feng was in a terrible state as well. There were at least 10 sword wounds on his body, especially on his chest. A sword had pierced through it, and his internal organs could be seen clearly. Moreover, there was a sword aura that was constantly destroying his vitality. Both of them were like arrows at the end of their flight. In the distance, Han Feng wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and he looked at Yi Xian with a ferocious expression. "Kill the sinner." With that, he held the spear in his hand and walked towards Yi Xian. However, after taking 2 steps, he fell into a pool of blood. He looked at the horizon and wanted to get up, but he couldn't use any strength at all. At this moment, he saw many afterimages in the depths of the starry sky. When he saw those afterimages, he grinned because those were the enforcers of the universe. Their reinforcements had arrived. Han Feng retracted his gaze and turned to look at the corpses of the enforcers in the distance. His eyes gradually became blank, and his left hand clutched the badge of the enforcer in front of his chest. "Brothers. In the next life, we'll continue to be brothers." As soon as he finished speaking, there was no longer any focus in his eyes. "P.S. I'm not asking for votes, I'm asking for a compliment. Can you compliment my looks?" Chapter 1556. At the moment Han Feng died, Yi Xian slowly collapsed as well. He was also exhausted. Were the enforcers weak? Not at all. Most importantly, they were just like Yi Xian. Every single one of them was unafraid of death. Most of the injuries on his body were exchanged with the enforcers' lives. If it wasn't for the undying bloodline and the mad demon bloodline, he would definitely not be a match for them. Fortunately, there were no experts on the level of Mu Xiaodao in this group of people. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be able to resist 10 of them, let alone 60. Earlier, Mu Xiaodao had almost killed him with over 10 enforcers. There was a huge gap between the enforcers and Mu Xiaodao. At this moment, a middle-aged man appeared. He wore the signature black robe of the enforcers. He was one of the 6 commanders of the enforcers, Lin Shan. There were 28 enforcers behind Lin Shan. When he saw the corpses of Han Feng and the rest, Lin Shan's face instantly turned gloomy. He looked up at Yi Xian, who was nearby. "Chop him into pieces." Behind him, a law enforcer dashed towards Yi Xian directly. When the law enforcer was in front of Yi Xian, a beam of sword light suddenly slashed towards him. The law enforcer's expression changed drastically, and he blocked the blade horizontally. Boom! The saber shattered, and the enforcer was instantly sent flying thousands of meters away. At this moment, 3 women appeared behind Yi Xian. They were the mysterious woman and the other 2 women who had rushed over due to the aura of Yi Xian's undying bloodline. The 3 women were dumbfounded when they saw Yi Xian lying in a pool of blood. The mysterious woman suddenly charged towards Yi Xian. When she saw Yi Xian's miserable state, her tears instantly flowed down. "No. No." As she spoke, she hugged Yi Xian, and the tears in her eyes flowed like a broken dam. "Regret." At this moment, The mysterious woman felt like her heart was being pricked by needles, and she was close to going mad. Self-blame, guilt, regret. The mysterious woman hugged Yixian tightly and cried like a child, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." She was the one who forced Yixian into a desperate situation. Not far away, Tu retracted her gaze from Yixian and looked at Lin Shan with bloodshot eyes. As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly transformed into a ray of sword light that charged out. This time, she did not use her fists, because her sword was stronger. At this moment, she only wanted to kill. Lin Shan's expression instantly changed when he saw this strike. What a powerful sword! Lin Shan directly rushed out. On the other side, Mu Nianyan's lips curled into a sinister smile as he charged forward with his sword in hand. The two of them were furious. As soon as they exchanged blows, the two women were crushed. Directly crushed. Especially when they were enraged, their combat strength was simply off the charts. At the side, Xiaota slowly floated out from within Yixian's body, and Xiaota was shocked when he saw the mysterious woman. "Save me." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and ran. The mysterious woman was speechless. At this moment, the woman's right hand suddenly made a grabbing motion, and the small pagoda was instantly caught in her hand. Xiaota begged, The mysterious woman hurriedly said, "Quickly give him violet energy." Xiaota hesitated for a moment, and then he said, If this chapter isn't finished, please continue." The mysterious woman spoke furiously, "What? Quickly give him violet energy." Xiaota hesitated for a moment before he said, "Young master is fine." The mysterious woman gazed at Yixian when she heard this. As expected, the injuries throughout Yixian's body were slowly recovering. The mysterious woman instantly heaved a sigh of relief when she witnessed this scene. Actually, if he relied solely on the immortal bloodline, then Yixian would be dead by now. In the end, it wasn't just the immortal bloodline that saved him, but the violet energy as well. Meanwhile, Xiaota spoke softly, "Young master's insanity demon bloodline." The mysterious woman gazed at Yixian. At this moment, Yixian's entire body was still blood red, and the insanity demon bloodline was growing stronger. The reason Yixian hadn't completely woken up was because of the insanity demon bloodline. The mysterious woman fell silent for a moment before she placed her right hand lightly on Yixian's shoulder, and a mysterious force entered Yixian's body. At this moment, the insanity demon bloodline suddenly boiled. "Resist!" The mysterious woman withdrew her hand when she witnessed this scene. She didn't dare use force because Yixian was too weak right now. As if she'd thought of something, she gazed at the sword in Yixian's hand. "Sword spirit, I need your help." After a moment of silence, the sword spirit trembled slightly. The mysterious woman placed her right hand on Yixian's shoulder again, and it didn't take long for a mysterious force to enter Yixian's body. The insanity demon bloodline resisted once more, and it was even more intense than before. It had a bad temper. Right at this moment, the sword spirit suddenly transformed into a ray of blood-red light that entered Yixian's body. Bang! Yixian's body stiffened, and the insanity demon bloodline within Yixian's body gradually calmed down. On the other hand, Yixian's body gradually returned to normal. A trace of a smile appeared on the mysterious woman's face when she witnessed this scene. Meanwhile, the battle in the distance had ended. Over 10 corpses lay by Mu Nianyan and two sides, and only Lin Shan was still alive. However, Lin Shan was half dead at this moment, and a sword was stuck in his chest. It was unknown whether it was Tu's or Nianyan's. Lin Shan stared fixedly at the two women before him and was about to speak when Mu Nianyan suddenly pressed her fingers together and slashed. Lin Shan's head flew into the air. Mu Nianyan turned around and walked over to Yixian's side. When she saw that Yixian's arm had been severed, her expression instantly turned gloomy. Tu's eyes were scarlet red, and he didn't conceal his killing intent at all. Right at this moment, Yixian slowly opened his eyes. When he saw the mysterious woman for the first time, Yixian's expression instantly changed, and he jumped to the side. "You chased me all the way here to kill me." Needless to say, he was really shocked at this moment. Damn it. I actually encountered this woman here. How long has this woman been chasing after me? What kind of deep hatred does she have? The mysterious woman's expression froze. At this moment, Yi Xian saw Tu and Mu Nianyan. When he saw them, Yi Xian was overjoyed. Sister Nian. Mu Nianyan smiled faintly. She walked over to Yi Xian's side and gently patted Yi Xian's head. She smiled. How do you feel now? Yi Xian grinned. Much better. As he spoke, he looked at Tu's day. You're here too. Tu nodded slightly, and his expression was gloomy. I'm late. Tu still couldn't let go of the fact that Yi Xian had been bullied to this extent. Yi Xian grinned. It's good that you're still alive. It's good that you're still alive. In fact, when he had completely entered a state of madness, he had already given up on living. At that moment he only wanted to kill. As if he had thought of something, Yi Xian suddenly looked at the mysterious woman. If this chapter is not finished, please continue to the next page. He opened his palm, and a sword appeared in his hand. Sister Nian, Qing, let's join forces. We can definitely kill this demon woman. Mu Nianyan, too. The mysterious woman lowered her head slightly, and no one knew what she was thinking. Yi Xian sensed that the atmosphere was a little strange. He looked at Nian Nian. Sister Nian, what's going on? Mu Nian Nian hesitated for a moment. If I said that she's your biological mother, would you believe me? Yi Xian blinked. Sister Nian, this joke isn't funny at all. Mu Nian Nian looked at Yi Xian. I'm not joking. The smile on Yi Xian's face gradually disappeared. He knew that Sister Nian usually wouldn't joke around with him. Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. Sister Nian, have you forgotten how she treated me in the past? In order to kill me, she would do anything. How could she be my biological mother? Moreover, my biological mother is Du Guxian. At this moment, the mysterious woman suddenly said softly, I'm sorry. Yi Xian looked at the mysterious woman. I think this is a little absurd. The mysterious woman looked at Yi Xian. I am indeed your biological mother. Yi Xian smiled. Then who is Du Guxian? The mysterious woman said softly, she's my older sister. Yi Xian frowned slightly. Your older sister? The mysterious woman nodded. She's also from the Undying Emperor clan. However, due to some special reasons her bloodline was taken away. Yi Xian looked at the mysterious woman. This time, it was you who asked the Undying Emperor clan's experts to help me? The mysterious woman nodded. Yi Xian was silent for a moment, then shook his head. I still don't understand. If you're really my mother, why did you target me so desperately before? Could it be that you wanted to train me? But it doesn't seem like it. You're really trying to kill me. The mysterious woman was a little embarrassed. Of course, she felt even more guilty. All these years, not only did she not fulfill her responsibility as a mother, she even forced her own son to die. At this moment, Yi Xian said again. Moreover, what I don't understand is that you knew I had the undying bloodline. Logically speaking, even if you didn't know I was your son, we should be related since we share the same bloodline. Why did you force me to die so crazily? The mysterious woman said softly, I thought you were my older sister's son. Yi Xian blinked. Do you have such a deep grudge against your older sister? The mysterious woman wanted to say something, but stopped. At this moment, Mu Nianyan suddenly said, she thought you died back then. That's why she wanted to take revenge on her older sister. But the truth is, you didn't die back then. That's why it's like this now. As she spoke, she recounted the old stories that Miss Ding had told her before. After hearing Mu Nianyan's words, Yi Xian was silent. Actually, he felt that it was a little too ridiculous. She was a mortal enemy just a while ago, but now she was his biological mother? Didn't this mean that he couldn't take revenge? He was beaten for nothing? How could a biological mother beat her son for nothing? No way. Yi Xian was about to speak when a huge black vortex suddenly appeared in the starry sky, and then a woman walked out. It was Mu Xiaodao. With Mu Xiaodao's appearance, the leader of the undead clan, Dongli Jing, also appeared. After Mu Xiaodao appeared, she opened her palm, and a flying dagger appeared in her hand. At this moment, she glanced at Nian Nian and the others, and then she blinked and said, "Sorry to disturb you." As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and ran. She confirmed that she couldn't defeat so many people. Everyone. End of this chapter. Chapter 1557. The reason why Little Air was able to suppress Nian Nian and Tu back then was mainly because of the disaster law. If it wasn't for the disaster law suppressing Nian Nian and Tu in a one-on-one battle, she would at most have a 50-50 chance of defeating them. Seeing Mu Xiaodao escape, Yi Xian shouted angrily, "Hack her to death." Saying that, he chased after her. "Don't let this knife-wielding woman go. This woman is too shameless. Moreover, she knows when to yield and when to stand tall. If she lives, she will become a huge problem in the future." Mu Nian and Tu were even faster. In the instant that Mu Xiaodao escaped, the two girls had already chased after him. Yi Xian also wanted to chase, but the mysterious woman suddenly shook her head. "It's too late." Yi Xian was stunned and was about to speak when Mu Nian and Tu returned. Mu Nian shook her head. She ran too fast. Yi Xian was speechless. Damn, this woman ran so fast. At this moment, the mysterious woman suddenly said, "We have to return to the undead tribe first." Hearing that, Yi Xian suddenly turned and left. Mu Nian and the other two were stunned and quickly followed. Yi Xian rushed to the 9-dimensional cosmic barrier. When he arrived, there was only one person left. Big Dipper. Yi Xian quickly walked in front of Big Dipper. Big Dipper's injuries were serious, but fortunately she had the undead bloodline, so it was not fatal. Yi Xian opened his palm, and countless purple energies surged out of his palm and entered Big Dipper's body. With the purple energies healing, Big Dipper's injuries healed even faster. Yi Xian looked around. Where are the enforcers? Big Dipper wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Gone. Gone. Yi Xian frowned. These enforcers retreated very quickly. Big Dipper suddenly looked at the mysterious woman. You are the third miss? The mysterious woman nodded. Big Dipper was about to speak when Dongli Jing suddenly said, "The Cosmos God Court will not let this go. Let's return to the undead tribe first." Yi Xian suddenly said, "Wait." With that, he turned around and disappeared. The girls looked in the direction in which Yi Xian had left. Soon, they discovered that Yi Xian had arrived at the battlefield. Yi Xian looked at the experts of the Undying Emperor clan who had died in battle. He bowed deeply to their corpses, then put them away. Then, he returned to the 9-dimensional barrier. Yasushi glanced at Yi Xian and said, "Let's go." Just as she was about to enter the 9-dimensional universe, a flying dagger suddenly flew towards her from afar. Higashi Yasushi frowned, turned around, and threw a punch. Boom! The flying dagger was forced to stop. At this moment, another flying dagger slashed over. The mysterious woman at the side suddenly took a step forward and struck out with her palm. There was a blood-red flame on her palm. Boom! The flying knife was forcibly stopped by this palm. At this moment, the mysterious woman and Higashi Yasushi suddenly attacked again. Boom! The two flying daggers were sent flying. Everyone looked over and saw that it was Mu Xiaodao who had attacked. Mu Xiaodao blinked. "I'm back." Higashi Yasushi gazed at Mu Xiaodao and slowly clenched his right fist. Mu Xiaodao opened her palm, and a flying dagger appeared in her hand. She smiled and said, "I now announce that your Undying Emperor clan will be annihilated." A wisp of disdain curled up the corners of Higashi Yasushi's mouth. "You?" Mu Xiaodao suddenly pointed above her head. Everyone looked in the direction she was pointing. Bang! An expanse of space suddenly split open above Mu Xiaodao, and then a middle-aged man walked out from within it. The middle-aged man wore a black robe, and his hair was tied up high. He had a scholarly aura between his brows, and he gave others the feeling that he was quiet. Mu Xiao. He was the boss of the Universal Enforcers, and he was in charge of all the Universal Enforcers. Behind Mu Xiao, 10 black-clothed men appeared soundlessly. These 10 black-clothed men all held a dagger in their hands, and they were like ghosts. Behind these 10 black-clothed men, there were 4 middle-aged men, 2 of whom were, this chapter isn't finished. Please continue. They were Yen Mo and Mo Shan. Both of them were commanders of the Universe Enforcers, and the other two were commanders of the Universe Enforcers as well. Behind the four of them, there were 120 people. All of them were Universe Enforcers. Other than the dead Universe Enforcers, almost all the Universe Enforcers of the Cosmos God Court had rushed here. At this moment, a few hundred meters to the right of Mu Xiu, the space there suddenly split open, and an old man walked out. The old man wore a loose white robe, and he held a black ancient book in his hands. On the book, there were two large black words: God Technique, Sage. In the Cosmos God Court, there was a group of people who specialized in spells and secret techniques. These people were called sages. And these people possessed the most ancient secret techniques and spells in the universe. Sages were also split into different levels. Even though the person in front of them wasn't at the peak, he was still a sage master. One must know that above the sage master was the God Word Master, and there were only two God Word Masters in the entire Cosmos God Court. Behind the old man, there were two people, one male and one female. From their appearance, they seemed to be around 30 years old, and they were both holding a sheathed sword in their hands. It wasn't over yet. A few hundred meters to the right of Mu Xiaodao, the space there suddenly split open, and a white-robed man walked out. This man was wearing a robe as white as snow, and he was holding a long spear in his hands. It was an extremely ordinary wooden spear. Below, Yi Xian's face sunk. There wasn't a single weakling among these people. The Cosmos God Court, the most ancient and mysterious power in the universe, was slowly emerging. In the distance, the boss of the Universe Enforcers, Mu Xiu, suddenly looked at Mu Xiaodao. "Miss Mu, how are we going to fight?" Mu Xiaodao pointed at Yi Xian. "I'll fight this one, I'll leave the rest to you guys." Yi Xian. Mu Xiu glanced at Yi Xian and the rest, and his face sunk. This woman was the strongest on their side, but she chose the weakest person on the other side. Only this woman would do such a thing. The white-robed man from the Cosmos God Court suddenly said, "Miss Mu, you're strong, you can fight the Undying Race's leader. What do you think?" Mu Xiaodao immediately shook her head. "I won't fight this woman." She wasn't afraid of Dongli Jing, but this woman couldn't be beaten to death. That undying bloodline was like a pervert. As long as she wasn't instantly killed, she would be able to continuously recover. If the two of them fought, they could fight for 10 years. Hearing Mu Xiaodao's words, the white-robed man was speechless. Amongst the 6 universe law protectors, Mu Xiaodao was the most shameless, and also the most unreasonable. Moreover, she could do anything. For example, betray her teammates. The moment she realized that she couldn't win, she would immediately flee. This woman was simply the best in the Cosmos God Court. However, she was really strong. Therefore, even though many people didn't like her, they didn't dare to offend her. Strength was secondary. The most important thing was that this woman knew how to play dirty. Mu Xiaodao glanced at the white-robed man and the rest. "Are you guys fighting? If not, then I'm leaving." Hearing this, everyone's expressions instantly turned slightly unsightly. At this moment, the divine sage suddenly said, "Leave the Undying Clan's patriarch to me." The white-robed man looked at two below. "Leave this woman to me." Below, two directly shot into the sky and slashed at the white-robed man. A single slash shook the heavens and the earth. In midair, the white-robed man narrowed his eyes. What a strong swordsman! As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly vanished on the spot. Bang! A crack in the space was blasted open. Within the pitch-black spatial hole, two directly suppressed the white-robed man. However, the white-robed man was strong as well. Even though he was suppressed, he didn't show any signs of losing. Mu Xiu looked at Mu Nianyan below. "Leave this woman to me." As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly took a step forward, and below him, Mu Nianyan suddenly drew her sword. A sword hum shook the starry sky. Soon, Mu Nianyan and Mu Xiu started fighting, and Mu Nianyan still held the upper hand, suppressing Mu Xiu. This chapter isn't finished. Please continue to the next page. At this moment, Mu Xiaodao suddenly looked at a sword-wielding woman behind the divine sage. "You go and beat the one with the blade from the Undying Emperor clan." She was referring to 7-Star. 7-Star looked up at the sword-wielding woman, and the two women looked at each other. In the next moment, the two women simultaneously vanished on the spot. Bang! In the starry sky, a wave of sword light and blade light violently exploded. Mu Xiaodao then looked at the enforcers. "Follow me and beat up that sinner of misfortune." Yi Xian's face was filled with black lines. Damn it! This woman was bullying the weak, and she still wanted to gang up on him? 120 enforcers, and 4 universe enforcer commanders. Other than that, there were also 10 people who looked extremely powerful. This was too much. At this moment, Dongli Yasuda suddenly sneered, "Bullying the weak with numbers? Don't you know whose territory this is?" As soon as he finished speaking, countless strong people appeared in the surroundings. There were tens of thousands of them. All of them were the strongest people in the 8th dimension. Although their overall strength was slightly weaker than these enforcers, they had the numbers advantage. Other than that, within the entire 8th dimension, countless large arrays appeared, and these large arrays targeted the enforcers. However, this was not the end. From the space channel leading to the 9 dimensions, a powerful aura suddenly appeared. The next moment, a group of experts wearing armor and holding long spears rushed out. Dao soldiers. The Undying Emperor clan had nurtured a total of 30,000 Dao soldiers. Leading them was a middle-aged man. Dongli Ting. Dao soldier commanders. Dongli Yasuda suddenly pointed at the distant Yi Xian, "Protect the young master." Dongli Ting looked at Yi Xian, and in the next moment he knelt on one knee. "We pledge our lives to protect the young master." Behind him, tens of thousands of people knelt on one knee. "We pledge our lives to protect the young master." Yi Xian was about to speak, but at this moment, behind him, 19 black figures suddenly appeared without a sound. These 19 people were like shadows, closely guarding beside him. The auras of these 19 people were even stronger than those of the enforcers. Yi Xian was slightly shocked, because he didn't even notice when these 19 people had appeared behind him. However, this wasn't the end. Within the spatial tunnel, dragon roars suddenly sounded, and in the next moment, a powerful aura swept out from the spatial tunnel. The aura was like a mountain flood, crushing everything. In next to no time, a group of cavalrymen clad in armor and wielding spears charged out from the spatial passageway while riding on enormous dragons. Undying Blood Cavalry. As a superpower that ruled the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th dimensions, how could the Undying Emperor clan not have an army? This Undying Blood Cavalry was the most elite cavalry of the Undying Emperor clan. There weren't many of them, only 1,000. However, when these 1,000 cavalrymen charged in formation, just their aura alone could split the heavens and shatter the earth. As soon as the 1,000 Undying Blood Knights charged out, everyone in the surroundings felt a strand of pressure descend upon them. Even Yi Xian felt an extremely strong pressure, and he had no choice but to use his sword intent to resist. At this moment, the commander of the Undying Blood Cavalry suddenly looked at Yi Xian, and in the next moment, he put away his spear and slightly lowered his head. "Greetings, young master." Behind him, the 1,000 Undying Blood Cavalry simultaneously lowered their heads and said in unison, "Greetings, young master." And the 1,000 giant dragons beneath them also suddenly lowered their heads, in a subservient posture. Yi Xian was somewhat dumbfounded. At this moment, the spatial tunnel that led to the 9th dimension suddenly trembled. There were more experts rushing over. Looking at the experts of the 9th dimension kneeling on one knee in front of him, Yi Xian softly sighed. At this moment, Xiaota asked, "Young master, why are you sighing?" Yi Xian looked towards the horizon and softly said, "In the past, when I said that I was the son of the 9th dimension, not only did they not believe me, they even said that I was bragging, Xiaota. P.S. Yesterday, a reader told me that I can publish it on time. This way, I won't be late anymore." That's great. End of this chapter. Chapter 1558. Thousands of people charged out from the spatial tunnel. They were all wearing silver armor, feathered helmets, and had longbows on their backs. 3,600 people. Divine feather guards. These were the divine archers that the undying Emperor clan had carefully nurtured. They were also an army that was as famous as the undying blood cavalry. In the secular world, armies could not contend against peak experts. But in the nine-dimensional universe, it was different. Because these armies were made up of super experts. Why was the undying Emperor clan so powerful? Other than their own bloodlines, there was another important reason. The undying Emperor clan controlled 3 super-dimensional universes, as well as 10 worlds. Simply put, the undying Emperor clan controlled an enormous amount of resources and talents. Every year, these worlds would provide the undying Emperor clan with an endless supply of talents. As long as they were geniuses or monsters, they would be absorbed by the undying Emperor clan. And these armies of the undying Emperor clan were all made up of super geniuses and monsters. In addition, they had the support of the undying Emperor clan's resources. Thus, these people were extremely powerful, just like this divine feather guard. In terms of individual strength, they were not much weaker than the universe enforcers. In addition, they had the advantage in numbers. Even if they faced the universe enforcers, they would not be afraid. After this divine feather guard appeared, everyone clenched their right fists and placed them on their chests. Then they bowed slightly to Yixian. Young master. The undying Emperor clan had not had a young master for countless years. And this generation's young master was different from the past. Because this generation's young master had 2 super bloodlines. He was the future hope of the undying Emperor clan. Before coming, the clan's elders had given them a death order. They had to protect the young master at all costs. It could be said that Yi Xian's identity had been decided by the clan leader and the undying Emperor clan's elders. Not only was it legal, it was also very special. Seeing everyone bow to him, Yi Xian felt complicated. He was still a bit confused about his identity as the undying Emperor clan's young master. As the undying Emperor clan's experts continued to appear, the situation instantly reversed. Not far away, Mu Xiaodao's expression was incomparably gloomy. This was awkward. They did not compete in numbers. She was already preparing to flee. If she could win, she would fight. If she couldn't, she would not fight. If you want to live long, you must learn to be humble. As if he knew what Mu Xiaodao was thinking, the nearby divine diviners suddenly sent a voice transmission. Guardian, if you retreat now, then all of us will die here. Mu Xiaodao blinked his eyes. Who told you not to get more people? This was especially so for the Hall of Men Yen. They had only sent 3 of them. What were they thinking? Are you looking down on the undying Imperial clan? The Divine Word Master said in a deep voice, It is not that we look down on the undying Imperial clan. Merely, we never expected that the undying Imperial clan would actually fight to the death for this person. Guardian, you must not retreat. There are already super experts from our palace rushing over. If you retreat, the people here will be in danger. At this moment, he was really worried. If it was any other law enforcer, he wouldn't be worried. But this Mu Xiaodao, this woman, didn't act according to common sense. She would really do something like betraying her teammates. In the entire Cosmos God Court, other than the laws of their universe, no one else could control them. Mu Xiaodao said indifferently, Who came to the Hall of Speech? The divine sage said in a deep voice, The white-robed priest has arrived. White-robed divine sage. Mu Xiaodao's expression changed slightly. However, she still didn't speak. The divine sage said again, Other than that, the Dark Hall's divine guards have arrived. The one leading them is the mistress of the Dark Hall. Also, another guardian is already rushing over here. Guardian? Mu Xiaodao hurriedly asked, Do you know who it is? The divine sage shook his head. I don't know. Mu Xiaodao said softly, Who could it be? At this moment, a man suddenly appeared beside Dong Lijing. This person was Nan Xing, who was in charge of intelligence. Nan Xing said in a deep voice, Patriarch, there is a group of super experts rushing towards us through the star field. They are very strong. Our people can't stop them. In at most 15 minutes, they will appear here. Dong Lijing looked at Mu Xiaodao. There was a rare trace of seriousness in her eyes. How strong was the Cosmos God Court? She didn't know either. This was because the Cosmos God Court rarely appeared in the eyes of the world. Even to the undying Imperial clan, the Cosmos God Court was very mysterious. Now, there were experts from the Cosmos God Court rushing over. This proved that the Cosmos God Court wasn't afraid of the undying Imperial clan. They also chose to fight the undying Imperial clan head-on. At this point, Dongli Jing suddenly turned to look at Yi Xian. Double bloodline. Mortal sword. Seeing Dongli Jing look over, Yi Xian was about to speak. Dongli Jing suddenly transmitted his Xian Qi. Little fella, you have to cooperate with me later. Yi Xian was slightly confused. Dongli Jing said, there is a group of super experts from the Cosmos God Court rushing over. I don't know how strong they are. If they are too strong, I will need to mobilize a mysterious army of the undying Imperial clan. However, this mysterious army is stationed in the undying world. They will only act when the family is in danger. I need them to leave the undying world. In order for them to leave the undying world, I need a reason that they can't refuse. I need to display all my talent. The more outstanding I am, the more I can move them. Yi Xian said solemnly, Patriarch, even you can't mobilize them? Dongli Jing nodded. However, I need a reasonable reason. Moreover, I need to raise their morale. Yi Xian went silent. Dongli Jing continued, little fella, we are a big family. Families like this are usually the most snobbish. If you have potential and value, the family will protect you at all costs. If you don't have potential or your value isn't high enough, the family will consider if it's worth it. I can suppress other voices in the family. However, I hope to do it in a different way. That is to let everyone in the family feel that it's worth risking their lives for me. Risking their lives? Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. At this moment, he thought of the young man from the undying Imperial army. These people were risking their lives for him. However, they didn't even know who he was. If it was him, would he risk his life for someone he didn't know? Value. Dongli Jing's words were very direct. If there was value, if it could bring benefits and hope to the family, then everyone would fight for it. If there was no value, if it couldn't bring benefits and hope to the family, then it was useless even if he was the patriarch's son. Of course, he understood the other meaning behind Dongli Jing's words. That was Yi Xian had to take a stand. Right now, the people from the undying Imperial clan all treated Yi Xian as their young master. However, what about Yi Xian himself? Did he have any sense of belonging to the undying Imperial clan? His, Yi Xian's, attitude was very important. If the undying Imperial clan risked their lives in exchange for a young master who didn't have any sense of belonging to the undying Imperial clan, Yi Xian collected his thoughts. He opened his palm and a necklace appeared in his hand. This was what the young man from the undying Imperial army had given him before he died. Yi Xian looked at the necklace in silence for a moment. Then, he turned to look at his surroundings. At this moment, countless experts from the undying Imperial clan were waiting in formation. These people were here to protect him, Yi Xian. By the side, Dongli Jing looked at Yi Xian. What she wanted was Yi Xian's attitude. The undying Imperial clan was really determined to fight the Cosmos God Court to the death. Yi Xian's attitude was very important. It wasn't just her. The higher-ups of the undying Imperial clan were also waiting for Yi Xian's attitude. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly walked out. He held a long sword in his hand and pointed it at the distant Mu Xiaodao. Universe Guardian, I, Yi Xian, the young master of the undying Imperial clan, challenge you on behalf of the undying Imperial clan. Boom. As he spoke, a powerful aura surged out from Yi Xian's body. The aura of the undying bloodline. At this moment, everyone turned to look at Yi Xian. Undying bloodline. Pure undying bloodline. Of course, this wasn't the main point. The main point was that Yi Xian was challenging the Cosmos Guardian. No one here was a weakling. They could naturally tell that the strongest person on the Cosmos God Court's side was the Cosmos Guardian, Mu Xiaodao. And now, their young master had actually. He directly challenged the strongest, Mu Xiaodao. In an instant, the blood of countless undying Imperial clan members boiled. Their morale soared. When he heard Yi Xian's words, Dong Lijing slowly closed his eyes. Everything he did was worth it. A smile appeared on the mysterious woman's face. She naturally hoped that Yi Xian would acknowledge the undying Imperial clan. After all, this was her clan. In the sky, Mu Xiaodao looked at Yi Xian, one-on-one. Yi Xian laughed. Yes. Mu Xiaodao fell silent. At this moment, the experts of the Cosmos God Court were also looking at her. If Mu Xiaodao retreated now, then the Cosmos God Court would lose all face. Meanwhile, Mu Xiaodao suddenly smiled. You want a one-on-one fight? Sure. As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly took a step forward. In the next moment, her soul was unsheathed, and a flying dagger appeared above her head. Her soul grabbed the flying dagger and slashed forward. God slaying. As soon as the strike was executed, the world here instantly became illusory. Everyone sensed a powerful attack from the blade. The expressions of all the experts from the undying Imperial clan changed when they witnessed this scene. That attack was too strong. Even Dong Lijing's eyes were filled with seriousness at this moment. She could block that attack, but what about Yi Xian? Under everyone's gaze, Yi Xian suddenly took another step forward. Bang! A red aura suddenly shot into the sky from within him, and in an instant, the entire sky was dyed blood red. Mad Demon Bloodline. Yi Xian had entered a mad demon state, and he'd gone completely mad without even a trace of consciousness left. 2 bloodlines. All the experts from the undying Imperial clan were shocked. But this wasn't the end of it. Yi Xian took another step forward. The sword domain. It wasn't just the sword domain, there was the slaughter domain, the death domain, and the blood domain. For domains, the shock in the hearts of all the spectators had transformed into astonishment. However, this wasn't the end of it. Yi Xian took another step forward and stabbed with his sword. It was a very ordinary attack, and it didn't even carry a trace of sword energy. However, the expressions of Dong Lijing and the others had changed. The mortal realm. It wasn't just the mortal realm, it was the mortal sword. The sword pierced through the flying dagger. Bang! The starry sky in the surroundings was obliterated inch by inch, and all the experts retreated in unison. Yi Xian didn't retreat. He didn't even take a single step back. Because he knew that he couldn't, because he would weaken his momentum if he did. Yi Xian had forcefully suppressed the power within Mu Xiaodao's flying knife with his 4 domains. However, he had to pay a price for it. His face had instantly turned pale as a sheet, and his internal organs had been torn apart. Fortunately, he had the undying bloodline and primordial violet aura. Otherwise, he might have died on the spot. Just like that, Yi Xian used his 4 domains to forcefully resist Mu Xiaodao's attack, and he forcefully swallowed the blood in his mouth over and over again. Yi Xian stood ramrod straight with his back towards the experts from the undying Imperial clan. At this moment, they felt like Yi Xian was a god of war. Moreover, all of them were shocked. How did Yi Xian block that attack so easily? Actually, he didn't even have the strength to move. However, he forced himself to act as if he was fine. Meanwhile, Yi Xian suddenly raised his head to look at Mu Xiaodao, and a wisp of ridicule arose on the corners of his mouth. Is that all the guardians of the universe have? If all of them are like this, then I, Yi Xian, can take on 9 of them. Everyone was speechless. It didn't matter if he could win or not. What was important was that he had to act tough. In any case, acting tough wasn't against the law. Right at this moment, someone suddenly shouted, "The young master is invincible." A moment of silence ensued. The young master is invincible. The young master is invincible. The young master is invincible. Voice after voice resounded through the battlefield and into the depths of the starry sky. Chapter 1559. Mu Xiaodao stared fixedly at Yi Xian. She really didn't understand why this fellow makes it seem like he's won. Didn't they just exchange a single blow? Actually, she was quite shocked that Yi Xian had been able to resist her attack. Because Yi Xian hadn't taken a single step back. After all, she hadn't held back at all just now. Under normal circumstances, Yi Xian wouldn't have been able to resist it. But he'd resisted it. Not only had he resisted it, he'd even seemed to do it with ease. The most intolerable part was that he'd actually said that he wanted to fight 9 guardians of the laws of the universe. Meanwhile, Mu Xiaodao suddenly gazed at Yi Xian's hand, and she noticed that Yi Xian's hand seemed to be trembling. A thought arose in her mind when she saw this. Is he putting on a show? When she thought up to this point, she opened her palm, and another throwing knife appeared in her grasp. She was about to launch another attack. She would definitely be able to see through Yi Xian's strength with this attack. Suddenly, Yi Xian pointed the sword in his right hand towards the ground while he placed his left hand behind his back. A light breeze blew past, and his sleeves fluttered. The elegant demeanor of a swordsman was on full display. Meanwhile, Yi Xian's mind had recovered slightly with the help of the sword spirit. So long as he didn't suffer too much of a shock, then the sword spirit would be able to help him regain consciousness. Mu Xiaodao was just about to attack when Yi Xian suddenly shouted, "Mu Xiaodao!" His voice rumbled like thunder and shook the starry sky. Mu Xiaodao, who was about to attack, gazed at Yi Xian with a puzzled expression. "What are you doing?" Yi Xian roared with laughter. "A mere guardian of the laws isn't worthy of me, Yi Xian. You aren't worthy." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left swiftly. Everyone in the surroundings was stunned when they heard this. Did Mu Xiaodao lose? All of them exchanged glances. Meanwhile, someone shouted from the crowd, "The young master is invincible! The young master is invincible!" Countless experts from the undying imperial clan began to shout in succession. The voices grew louder and louder. The group of Cosmos God Court experts were still stunned. Did our guardian of the laws of the universe lose? They all looked at Mu Xiaodao. Mu Xiaodao was also somewhat dumbfounded. Had he lost? He didn't lose. But why did this guy make it sound like he had already lost? How could they play like that? Mu Xiaodao shook her head and looked at Yi Xian. Come out, let's continue fighting." At this moment she was enraged. Damn it. In terms of shamelessness, he had met his match this time. Down below, Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. At this moment, his undying bloodline and purple chi were madly repairing his body. Healing. Hurry up and heal. That saber strike just now almost took his life. Seeing that Yi Xian did not respond, Mu Xiaodao suddenly said angrily, "Come on, continue fighting." As she spoke, she opened her palm and the flying knife in her hand suddenly flew out and slashed towards Yi Xian. The corner of Yi Xian's mouth twitched when he saw the blade coming at him. How could he block it? At this moment, the mysterious woman suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian and punched out. Her fist was burning with flames. Boom! The mysterious woman blocked the flying knife with a single punch. In the sky, Mu Xiaodao looked at the mysterious woman. "Didn't you say one-on-one?" The mysterious woman was about to speak when Yi Xian suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Mu Xiaodao. "I've already received your saber strike. Now, it's your turn to receive my sword strike. Do you dare?" Mu Xiaodao Qingqing, Yi Clan, Ancestral Hall. Ancestors, Yi Xian has no talent and no virtue. From this moment onwards, Yi Xian's position as prince will be replaced by Yi Lang. The one who spoke was an old man in black robes. Not far behind the old man stood a youth with a faint smile on his face. This person was Yi Lang. On both sides were the Yi clan's elders. "Why?" At this moment, a timid voice suddenly sounded in the ancestral hall. Everyone turned to look and saw a little girl standing at the door. She was about 12 or 13 years old, and her hands were tightly gripping the hem of her skirt. Her face had a sickly pallor, and she looked a little weak. There was even a trace of fear in her eyes. This little girl was called Yi Ling and was Yi Xian's younger sister. When she heard that the clan wanted to dismiss Yi Xian, she disregarded her illness and rushed over. The black-robed old man frowned. "Yi Ling, what are you doing?" The little girl called Yi Ling bowed to the people in the ancestral hall and said timidly, "Great elder, my brother Yi Xian is a prince. Why did you cripple him for no reason?" The great elder looked coldly at Yi Ling. "This is a matter of the clan. Why are you interrupting?" Yi Ling was clearly a little fearful. She did not dare to look the great elder in the eye, but she did not leave. Instead, she mustered up her courage and walked into the ancestral hall. She bowed to the elders on both sides of the hall and said, "Elders, my brother is currently fighting with the Li family for the mining rights of the mine in Nanshan. He is now fighting for the family, and it is unknown whether he is alive or dead. However, the family has used a groundless excuse to remove his position as the crown prince. This is truly unfair. Impudent." The great elder suddenly raged. "Whether or not he is crippled is not up to a little girl like you to decide. Men, drag her away." At this time, the new Prince Yilang suddenly laughed. "He should be flogged 30 times as a warning to others." The great elder replied coldly, "Then flog him 30 times. Very quickly, 2 Yi clan's guards rushed in. Yi Ling clenched her fists and said angrily, "This is unfair. My brother has risked his life for the clan for so many years. Even now, he is fighting for the clan. The clan is unfair to him." One of the guards glanced at the new Prince Yilang. He knew that this was his chance to shine. The guard sneered, "Young Master Yi Lang inherits the title of prince. What are you yelling about?" As he spoke, he raised his hand and slapped Yi Ling's face. Slap. A crisp slap was heard. Yi Ling's right cheek instantly turned red and swollen. However, she did not cry. She only covered her cheek tightly. Yi Lang looked at the guard and smiled. "What's your name?" The guard hurriedly bowed. "Subordinate Zhang Mu greets the crown prince." Yi Lang nodded. "You're not bad. After I become the prince, I will need 10 guards. You can be my guard from now on." Hearing this, Zhang Mu was overjoyed. He quickly bowed deeply. "Subordinate will go through fire and water for the prince. I will do anything for you." Yi Lang nodded. "Drag him away. This person is disturbing the ancestral hall. Don't hold back. Understood?" Zhang Mu glanced at Yi Lang. When he saw the murderous intent in Yi Lang's eyes, he understood. He immediately grabbed Yi Ling's hair and dragged her out. At this moment, Zhang Mu suddenly stopped as if he had seen something. Inside the ancestral hall, everyone turned their heads to look outside the hall. Not far from the ancestral hall, a young man was walking towards the ancestral hall. The young man was wearing a tight-fitting robe. The robe was tattered and covered in blood. The young man was Yi Xian, who had rushed back from Nanshan. Seeing Yi Xian, Yi Lang's mouth curled into a cold smile. In the ancestral hall, the elders frowned. The great elder narrowed his eyes. His face was dark and gloomy. No one knew what he was thinking. From afar, when Yi Xian saw Zhang Mu dragging Yi Ling, his face turned savage. "Who gave you the guts to touch my sister?" When Zhang Mu saw Yi Xian, his face changed. He looked at Yi Lang and was about to speak. At this moment, Yi Xian leaped in front of him like a ferocious tiger. Before the latter could react, Yi Xian's fist landed on his face. Zhang Mu felt dizzy and he stumbled and fell. Yi Lang did not stop there. He charged at Zhang Mu again. At this time, Yi Lang suddenly roared, "Yi Xian, he's my man. How dare you?" Yi Xian suddenly stepped on Zhang Mu's chest. Pooh! Zhang Mu spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Yi Lang's face turned ugly. Yi Xian lifted his head to look at him, asking savagely, "Your man?" As he spoke, he stomped on Zhang Mu's face. Zhang Mu's face turned into a bloody mess as he screamed, "Prince, save me." Yi Xian ignored Zhang Mu, walking up to Yi Ling. Seeing Yi Ling's state, Yi Xian felt as though his heart was being sliced apart. He clenched his fists, and his entire body trembled. When Yi Ling saw Yi Xian, her tears flowed. "Brother, it hurts, it hurts." Hearing this, Yi Xian's expression turned savage. In the next instant, he charged in front of Zhang Mu and kicked Zhang Mu's head. Qingqing, Yi Clan, Ancestral Hall. Ancestors, Yi Xian has no talent, no virtue. From now on, Yi Xian's position as prince shall be replaced by Yi Lang. The one who spoke was an old man in black robes. Not far behind the old man, there was a youth with a faint smile on his face. This person was Yi Lang. On both sides, there were the Yi clan elders. "Why?" At this time, a timid voice rang out in the ancestral hall. Everyone turned to look and saw a little girl standing at the door. She was about 12 or 13 years old, and her hands were tightly gripping the hem of her skirt. Her face had a sickly pallor, and she looked a little weak. There was even a trace of fear in her eyes. This girl was called Yi Ling, and she was Yi Xian's younger sister. When she heard that the clan wanted to remove Yi Xian, she disregarded her illness and rushed over. The black-robed old man frowned. "Yi Ling, what are you doing?" The little girl called Yi Ling bowed to everyone in the ancestral hall and asked timidly, "Great Elder, my brother Yi Xian is the prince. Why did you cripple him for no reason?" The Great Elder looked at Yi Ling coldly. "This is a matter of the clan, what are you interrupting for?" Yi Ling was clearly a little fearful. She did not dare to look the Great Elder in the eye, but she did not leave. Instead, she mustered up her courage and walked into the ancestral hall. She bowed to the elders on both sides of the hall and said, "Elders, my brother is currently fighting with the Li family for the mining rights of the mine in Nanshan. He is now fighting for the family, and it is unknown whether he is alive or dead. However, the family has used a groundless excuse to remove his position as the crown prince." Impudent! The Great Elder suddenly raged. "Whether he's crippled or not, it's not up to a little girl like you to decide. Men, drag her away." At this time, the new prince, Yi Lang, suddenly laughed. "He should be flogged 30 times as a warning to others." The Great Elder replied coldly, "Then flog him 30 times. Very quickly, 2 Yi clan guards rushed in. Yi Ling clenched her fists and said angrily, "This is unfair. My brother has risked his life for the clan for so many years, and even now he's fighting for the clan. The clan is unfair to him." One of the guards glanced at the new prince, Yi Lang. He knew that this was his chance to shine. The guard sneered, "Young Master Yi Lang inherits the prince's position. What are you yelling about?" As he spoke, he raised his hand and slapped Yi Ling's face. Slap. A crisp slap sounded, and the right side of Yi Ling's face instantly swelled up. However, she did not cry, and only held her cheek tightly. Yi Lang looked at the guard and smiled. "What's your name?" The guard quickly bowed. "This subordinate, Zhang Mu, greets the prince." Yi Lang nodded. "You're not bad. After I become the prince, I'll need 10 guards. From now on, you'll be my guard." Hearing this, Zhang Mu was overjoyed and quickly bowed deeply. "This subordinate is willing to go through fire and water for the prince, even if it means death." Yi Lang nodded. "Drag him away. This person is causing trouble in the ancestral hall. Don't hold back, understand?" Zhang Mu glanced at Yi Lang, and when he saw the murderous intent in Yi Lang's eyes, he understood. He immediately grabbed Yi Ling's hair and dragged her out. At this moment, Zhang Mu seemed to have seen something and he suddenly stopped. Inside the ancestral hall, everyone turned their heads to look outside the hall. Not far from the ancestral hall, a young man was walking towards the ancestral hall. The young man was wearing a tight-fitting robe, and the robe was tattered, and there was blood everywhere. The young man was Yi Xian, who had rushed back from Nanshan. Seeing Yi Xian, Yi Lang's mouth curled into a cold smile. In the ancestral hall, the elders frowned. The Great Elder narrowed his eyes, and his face was dark. No one knew what he was thinking. From afar, when Yi Xian saw Zhang Mu dragging Yi Ling, his face turned savage. "Who gave you the guts to touch my sister?" When Zhang Mu saw Yi Xian, his face changed. He quickly looked at Yi Lang and was about to speak. At this moment, Yi Xian leaped in front of him like a ferocious tiger. Before the latter could react, Yi Xian's fist landed on his face. Bang! Zhang Mu's head spun, and he stumbled and fell. Yi Lang did not stop there, and charged towards Zhang Mu again. At this time, Yi Lang suddenly roared, "Yi Xian, he's my man, how dare you!" Yi Xian suddenly stepped on Zhang Mu's chest. Pooh! Zhang Mu spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Yi Lang's face turned ugly, while Yi Xian lifted his head to look at him, asking savagely, "Your man?" As he spoke, he stomped on Zhang Mu's face. Zhang Mu's face turned into a bloody mess as he screamed, "Prince, save me." Yi Xian did not care about Zhang Mu as he walked to Yi Ling's side. Seeing Yi Ling's state, Yi Xian felt as though his heart was being sliced by a knife. He clenched his fists, and his entire body trembled. When Yi Ling saw Yi Xian, her tears flowed. "Brother, it hurts, it hurts." Hearing this, Yi Xian's expression turned savage. In the next instant he charged in front of Zhang Mu and kicked Zhang Mu's head. Peng! Chapter 1560. Group Fight. As soon as Yi Xian gave the order, all the experts from the undying imperial clan charged towards Mu Xiaodao. The mysterious woman was at the front. Only she could block Mu Xiaodao's flying daggers. Mu Xiaodao's first thought was to flee when she saw so many people charging at her. There were too many people. She couldn't beat them. She was very clear about her own strength. If it was a one-on-one fight, she wouldn't be afraid of anyone. But the problem was that they were ganging up on her. There were too many of them. Mu Xiaodao was just about to flee when the holy sage fighting with Higashi Yasushi suddenly said, "Guardian, you can't run." If Mu Xiaodao ran now, they would be slaughtered. Mu Xiaodao was speechless. Why was this old man so old-fashioned? Didn't he see how many people there were? Suddenly, a voice rang out in Mu Xiaodao's mind. A moment later, Mu Xiaodao took a step forward. She opened her palm and a flying dagger appeared in her hand. In the next moment, she wielded the flying dagger with one hand and fiercely slashed forward. A saber light swept out like a scorching sun. The world trembled. The saber light drowned the mysterious woman and the others who were charging at the front. But in the next moment, the mysterious woman broke through the saber light, charged at Mu Xiaodao and punched. Mu Xiaodao's expression was cold. She took a step forward and slashed down again. Boom! As the saber slashed down, the mysterious woman instantly retreated thousands of feet away. She was still inferior to Mu Xiaodao in a head-on fight. After retreating, Mu Xiaodao wanted to continue attacking. But at this moment, she suddenly turned her head and saw that Yi Xian was charging at the Universal Enforcers. Seeing this scene, Mu Xiaodao's face darkened. The Universal Enforcers weren't a match for Yi Xian at all. If they were ganging up on Yi Xian, then Yi Xian wouldn't be able to do anything to them. But the problem was that there were people by Yi Xian's side. Not only were they not weaker than the Universal Enforcers, but they also outnumbered them. How could the Universal Enforcers stop them? As soon as Yi Xian rushed in, he started killing indiscriminately. Because behind Yi Xian, there were 19 assassins that were like shadows. These 19 people were inseparable from Yi Xian. With these 19 people following Yi Xian, the Cosmic Order Enforcers simply couldn't get close to Yi Xian. Mu Xiaodao opened his palm and a flying knife suddenly flew out. In the distance, the expression of Yi Xian, who was fighting, suddenly changed. He was about to turn around, but at this time, the 19 people suddenly appeared in front of him. The 19 people simultaneously pulled out the daggers at their waists and slashed forward. 19 blade lights directly slashed at the flying dagger. Boom! The blade light shattered and the 19 people were sent flying. However, in the process of being sent flying, the bodies of the 19 people suddenly became illusory. In the next moment, the 19 people silently appeared behind Yi Xian. He actually blocked it. Seeing this scene, Yi Xian was extremely shocked in his heart. The strength of these 19 people was even more terrifying than he had imagined. Mu Xiaodao frowned as well. She hadn't expected that the 19 people would actually be able to block this attack of hers. She was about to attack again when a flame suddenly charged in front of her. It was the mysterious woman. Mu Xiaodao looked at the mysterious woman, and the flying knife in her hand suddenly flew out. A tearing sound suddenly resounded. Bang! The flame was directly slashed apart, and the powerful force blasted the mysterious woman flying again. Mu Xiaodao didn't pay any attention to the mysterious woman, and she directly transformed into a blade light that slashed at the distant Yi Xian. Who did she want to kill the most? It was Yi Xian. Since she, Mu Xiaodao, was born, this was the first time she wanted to kill someone so much. When he noticed Mu Xiaodao charging over, Yi Xian immediately turned around. He held the sword in his right hand as he took a step forward, and then he slashed with his sword. This sword slashed directly at the blade light. Rumble! An expanse of sword light shattered, and Yi Xian was directly blasted away. Mu Xiaodao was about to follow up with another attack when the 19 people suddenly appeared in front of her. Mu Xiaodao's eyes flashed with malevolence. Scram! With that, she fiercely swung the flying knife in her hand. An expanse of blade light swept out. And at this moment, the 19 people suddenly became illusory. At this moment, the 19 people directly fused together, forming an illusory figure. This illusory figure suddenly drew his knife and slashed. Slash! It looked like one slash, but in reality, it was 19 slashes. As the blade light descended, the surrounding space was directly annihilated. Rumble! With this slash, the blade light in front of Mu Xiaodao was directly slashed apart. At the same time, Mu Xiaodao was directly blasted hundreds of meters away. After stopping, Mu Xiaodao was somewhat in disbelief. She looked into the distance. At this moment, the illusory figure had already returned behind Yi Xian. However, at this moment, there were 19 people again. Mu Xiaodao looked at the 19 people with a rare trace of seriousness in her eyes. The undying imperial clan actually had experts of this level. Moreover, these people were clearly not the top experts of the undying imperial clan. This clan had some tricks up their sleeves. At this moment, Mu Xiaodao suddenly turned around. At this moment, the group of cosmic keepers of order had all been killed. Although over 100 cosmic keepers of order were powerful, compared to the undying clan, their numbers were far too few. They were not a match for them at all. At this moment, more and more experts surrounded Mu Xiaodao. Obviously, they wanted to kill Mu Xiaodao. Mu Xiaodao's expression was calm. She opened her palm, and a flying knife appeared in her hand. She looked at the distant Yi Xian and smiled. Want to gang up on me? Dream on. My people are here. As soon as she finished speaking, countless bolts of lightning suddenly appeared in the sky. At the same time, a terrifying pressure crushed down from the starry sky. Seeing this scene, Yi Xian slightly narrowed his eyes. At this moment, Higashi Yasuharu suddenly called out from afar, "Get into formation." As soon as he finished speaking, the experts of the undying imperial clan retreated. The 30,000 Dao soldiers were in front, the 3,600 feather gods were behind, the 1,000 undying blood cavalry were on the side, and the 19 mysterious experts were closely following behind Yi Xian. At this moment, the cry of a sword suddenly rang out in the distance. Yi Xian looked up and saw a bloody head falling to the ground. It was the head of the Universe Enforcer Commander Mu Xiu. And the person who killed him was Mu Nianyan. At this moment, Mu Nianyan stood in the starry sky with a long sword in her hand, like a god of war. Nianyan, the fourth sword in the human world. Actually, if she were in the fifth dimension, she would be even stronger. This was because she was the Tendo of the fifth dimension. In that place, she could rely on the entire fifth dimension. However, she basically didn't need any external help. At this moment, another cry of a sword rang out. Everyone turned to look and saw a head slowly falling from the distant horizon. It was the white-robed man who had fought with Tu. The white-robed man's eyes were still wide open as his head fell to the ground. He had never expected that he would be killed just like that. In the sky, Tu turned to look at the distant Mu Xiaodao. The sword in her hand was trembling. Mu Nianyan was also looking at Mu Xiaodao. Both women's eyes were filled with killing intent. At this moment, the space in the sky suddenly split open. A moment later, a middle-aged man walked out. He wore a purple robe and held an ancient scroll in his hand. The moment the middle-aged man walked out, the divine lightning in the starry sky suddenly quieted down and formed a huge lightning net that covered the entire starry sky. Divine Word Master. At the same time, another man walked out. This man wore a black robe and an iron mask. The Dark Hall's Hall Master. Along with the appearance of the Dark Hall's Hall Master, many afterimages suddenly appeared in the starry sky. Soon, these afterimages solidified. They were all mysterious black-clothed people, and there were hundreds of them. Each of these people held a blood-red sickle in their hands. Hundreds of people exuded a sinister aura, giving people an extremely uncomfortable feeling. The divine oracle's gaze fell on the bodies of the keepers of order. After a moment of silence, he suddenly took a step forward. He flipped open the ancient book in his hand and began to chant. Gradually, countless bolts of lightning began to wriggle in the starry sky. As they gazed at the bolts of lightning, the expressions of everyone here had become solemn. Yi Xian's expression was also extremely solemn. The power of these thunderbolts was only second to the blood lightning that little air had created previously, but at this moment, there were so many thunderbolts. Down below, Higashi Yasushi suddenly said, "Immortal blood formation." As soon as he finished speaking, countless strands of blood energy surged out from the spatial passageway, and then an enormous blood formation appeared above them. In the sky, the divine word master suddenly said, "Descend." Boom! Countless bolts of lightning rained down. In an instant, it was as if doomsday had arrived. Boom, 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 boom. Thunderous booms resounded above everyone's heads as the blood formation grew dimmer and dimmer under the bombardment of the divine lightning. He couldn't block it. Right at this moment, Higashi Yasushi suddenly shot into the sky and headed straight for the divine pronoun. The divine pronoun glanced at Higashi Yasushi. "Imprison." Bang. Higashi Yasushi seemed as if he'd been frozen on the spot, and then a strange scene appeared. The space around Higashi Yasushi actually started to shrink layer by layer. No, it wasn't just the space here, countless other spaces were appearing incessantly around Higashi Yasushi. Meanwhile, the mysterious woman by Yi Xian's side spoke softly, "The space of a myriad of worlds." He's using the space of a myriad of worlds to imprison the patriarch. As she spoke, she glanced at the divine pronoun, and there was a trace of a solemn expression in her eyes. What terrifying attainments in the Tao of space! Yi Xian was about to attack, but the mysterious woman stopped him. "There's no need. Don't underestimate her." She just finished speaking when the space around Higashi Yasushi was suddenly obliterated inch by inch, and it didn't take long for the space of a myriad of worlds to shatter. A ferocious expression flashed through Higashi Yasushi's eyes as she charged at the divine pronoun again. The divine pronoun's expression was calm as he spoke softly, "Slash. This. In an instant, countless strands of sword energy suddenly appeared around Higashi Yasushi. Yi Xian's expression changed at the sight of this. All of these strands of sword energy were actually ordinary swords. Higashi Yasushi's expression changed as well. She immediately stopped moving, raised her arms horizontally, and then blocked the attacks in front of her. Break. Bang. An expanse of sword energy erupted in front of her, and then Higashi Yasushi was blasted back to where she stood just moments ago. Moreover, her arms were covered in injuries, but they were repairing themselves. There was a trace of seriousness in Higashi Yasushi's eyes as she gazed at the divine pronoun. Meanwhile, the blood formation in the sky suddenly shattered. Countless bolts of lightning descended in a straight line. Moon Yanyan gazed at two, and then both of them exchanged glances. A moment later, two rays of sword energy shot into the sky, and then countless strands of sword energy covered the entire starry sky. It was a head-on slash. The divine pronoun frowned slightly when he saw that they were actually able to resist his technique head-on, and then he suddenly said after a short moment of silence, "Open." Bang. An expanse of space behind him suddenly split open, and then a strand of mysterious energy surged into that expanse of space. It didn't take long for numerous powerful auras to emerge from the depths of that expanse of space. Many. He had forcefully opened up the cosmic barrier and established a transmission array. Clearly, countless experts were coming over through his transmission array. Down below, Nanxing suddenly appeared beside Higashi Yasushi. Nanxing's expression was extremely unsightly. "Patriarch, there's a large number of mysterious experts rushing towards our world. These mysterious experts' identities and strength are unknown, because our spies have all been killed." Higashi Yasushi stared fixedly at that expanse of space. A moment later, she roared angrily, "Prepare for battle." Fight. All around, countless experts from the Undying Emperor clan roared angrily in unison. At this moment, powerful auras were rushing over from the spatial passageway leading to the nine-dimensional universe. These were experts from the Undying Emperor clan who had come to reinforce them. It was clear that Higashi Yasushi had already called for reinforcements from the very beginning. At this moment, the divine pronoun suddenly pointed at the spatial passageway leading to the nine-dimensional universe. Daoist. Seal. Bang! A powerful force directly sealed the spatial passageway. Higashi Yasushi's expression changed drastically when she saw this. She turned around and threw a punch. Bang! The spatial black hole did not budge at all. That was because there was an endless stream of spatial energy sealing that spatial passage. The Undying Imperial clan's reinforcements would not be able to arrive. Chapter 1561. Higashi Yasushi's expression turned cold when he saw that the reinforcements had been sealed. At this time, several experts suddenly appeared behind the Divine Word Master. These experts were all clad in black armor, wielding long spears and wearing black helmets. There were a lot of people, no less than 60,000. Their leader was a middle-aged man with disheveled hair. The middle-aged man had a ferocious look on his face, and he held a chipped broadsword in his hand. One look was enough to tell that he was not a kind person. With the appearance of these 60,000 people, the scale of the battle tilted towards the Cosmos God Court. Because now, the Cosmos God Court had more people. The middle-aged man holding the large blade looked down at the people from the Undying Emperor clan and grinned. This is the number 1 clan in the 10,000 worlds, the Undying Emperor clan? In the distance, the Divine Word Master glanced at the man. Fierce blade, do not underestimate the enemy. The man named Hongdao laughed and said, Understood. As he spoke, he licked the corner of his mouth, his eyes filled with ferocity. At this time, Nanxing's voice sounded in Dongli Jing's mind. This man is called Han Dao, a divine general of the Great Qing dynasty in the Heaven Domain. He is in charge of 100,000 elites of the Great Qing dynasty. His soldiers are also known as the Fierce Soldiers. Each of them is fierce and brave. Heaven Domain. Fujiwara slowly closed his eyes. It was a star domain that was relatively unfamiliar to the Undying Imperial clan. If the Undying Imperial clan wanted to go to the Heaven Realm, even if it was an expert of her level, it would take at least 100 years. It was too far away. But this time, the Divine Word Master actually used such a short period of time to teleport these powerhouses over. This was not a normal kind of horror. Higashi Yasushi shot a glance at the Divine Pronoun Master, her eyes growing more solemn. The current situation was extremely unfavorable for the Undead Emperor clan, because the experts of the Undead Emperor clan were temporarily unable to provide support. At this moment, the Divine Word Master suddenly looked towards the distant starry sky. Moon Yanyan and Tu were still blocking the divine lightning. Under the joint efforts of the two women, the divine lightning slowly disappeared. After a moment of silence, the divine pronoun looked down at Higashi Yasushi. Kill! He did not ask for peace, nor did he say any nonsense. The Undying Imperial clan had massacred hundreds of law enforcers. There was no way to resolve this matter peacefully. Even if the Undying Emperor clan wanted to ask for peace, the Cosmos God Court would definitely not agree to it. Both sides were already in a life-or-death situation. Following the Divine Word Master's order, Jian Dao suddenly burst into laughter. Wolf pups, charge for this father. Let these remote natives experience the might of my great Qing dynasty. As soon as he finished speaking, he charged downwards with his broadsword in hand. Behind him, 60,000 people dove in unison. Meanwhile, the Divine Word Master suddenly closed his eyes and began to chant. A mysterious force gradually enveloped the 60,000-plus people, and their auras suddenly skyrocketed. His strength had increased greatly. Fujiwara's expression instantly sank when she witnessed this scene, because she noticed that the strength of these 60,000-plus cultivators had increased by at least 40%. Dongli Jing did not think too much about it. She looked to the Undying Imperial clan's Dao soldiers in the distance. Fight! The Dao soldier commander suddenly walked out. He pointed his spear at the sky. Fight! Fight! Tens of thousands of Dao soldiers roared in unison. In the next moment, tens of thousands of Dao soldiers soared into the sky and met the great Qing dynasty's experts head-on. The moment they charged out, the divine feather guards behind them suddenly attacked. Thousands of divine arrows pierced through the sky and into the crowd. In an instant, some experts fell from the sky, but not many. The thousands of arrows only killed a few dozen people. At this moment, the undying blood cavalry suddenly charged out in unison. Their charge caused the sky to change color. In the distance, Jian Dao suddenly turned to look at the cavalry and said fiercely, "Stop them." As soon as he finished speaking, thousands of people beside him charged towards the cavalry. However, as soon as the two sides clashed, the undying blood cavalry scattered the thousands of people. Hundreds of corpses fell from the sky. Unstoppable! How terrifying was the cavalry's charge! Although there were only 1,000 cavalry, when they charged, it was as if they could crush the sky and earth. Seeing this, Jian Dao's expression turned ugly. He had underestimated the undying imperial clan. At this moment he could not care less. He suddenly raised his saber and roared, "Kill!" Boom! A red light suddenly swept out from his body. Killing intent. Powerful killing intent swept out in all directions. Wherever the saber passed, it tore apart everything. Soon, the two sides were engaged in a fierce battle in the starry sky. Although the undying imperial clan had fewer people, Jian Dao's side did not have the slightest advantage. The two sides were evenly matched. Below, Yi Xian suddenly looked at the 19 people behind him. The 19 people did not hesitate and disappeared on the spot. However, the instant they disappeared, the Dark Hall's master suddenly said, "Stop them." As soon as he said that, several blood-red rays of light suddenly appeared not far away. Boom, 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 boom. The dozen or so people were directly blocked by a group of mysterious experts. Dark Hall's assassins. Both sides were assassins. The two sides did not waste any words and immediately started fighting. The Divine Word Master looked around and was silent for a moment. Then, he opened his palm and lightly waved it. A huge teleportation array appeared not far away to his right. Soon, the huge teleportation array began to tremble violently. It was calling for help again. Below, Dongli Jing turned to look at the spatial passageway that led to the 9th dimension. She had to forcefully open the spatial barrier so that the experts of the 9th dimension could come to her aid. Higashi Yasushi acted as soon as he thought of this and was about to attack. However, the Divine Tongue Master suddenly said, "Stop her." The Dark Hall's master suddenly disappeared and went straight for Dongli Jing. Dongli Jing suddenly said, "Third sister, stop her." Below, the mysterious woman directly charged towards the Dark Hall's master. The Divine Word Master looked at the leisurely Mu Xiaodao and said, "Stop her." As soon as he finished speaking, he felt slightly regretful, because his tone was wrong. As expected, Mu Xiaodao looked coldly at the Divine Word Master and said, "Are you ordering me around?" In the Cosmos God Court, the guardians of the universe only listened to the laws of the universe. Of course, this was not the main point. The main point was that this was Mu Xiaodao. This indescribably stupid woman. The Divine Word Master immediately bowed and said, "Miss Mu, I was disrespectful just now. Please forgive me." Mu Xiaodao grunted coldly, and then she turned to look at Yi Xian and said, "I'm going to hit him." She had no other thoughts right now, and all she wanted was to beat Yi Xian to death. The Divine Word Master hesitated for a moment and said, "Miss Mu, please consider the bigger picture." Mu Xiaodao spoke furiously, "Big my ass. I'm going to beat that bitch to death." As soon as she finished speaking, she charged towards Yi Xian. The reason she hadn't attacked earlier was actually because she was waiting. She was waiting for someone to tie down the other experts. But now, all the experts here who had the ability to stop her had been tied down. Yi Xian was all alone. Yi Xian's face sank when he saw Mu Xiaodao charge towards him. Damn it! She's targeting me. He didn't attack, and he withdrew a box instead. Mu Xiaodao's expression changed when she saw this, and she immediately stopped. Mu Xiaodao gazed at Yi Xian and said, "What's that?" She was extremely fearful of Yi Xian's trump cards. The sword Qi from before, the sword Dao Will from before. She realized that this bitch had more than just a few trump cards. Yi Xian gazed at Mu Xiaodao and said, "Take a guess." Mu Xiaodao spoke coldly, "Are you trying to scare me?" Yi Xian chuckled and said, "Then come over here." Mu Xiaodao thought for a moment, and then she gazed at the nearby Divine Word Master. The Divine Word Master said in a low voice, "Miss Mu, stop the undying imperial clan's patriarch first." At this moment, cracks had appeared on the spatial passageway that led to the 9th dimension from Dongli Jing's ferocious attacks. Mu Xiaodao frowned slightly and said, "Why don't you stop him yourself?" The corners of the Divine Word Master's mouth twitched. "Miss Mu, I have to maintain this teleportation formation, control the divine lightning to keep those two swordsmen busy, and I have to constantly strengthen the sealed spatial passageway." Actually, he was very angry in his heart. Damn it! Was this Mu Xiaodao sent by them? He didn't dare to scold her or fight her. Why did the laws of the universe send this idiot to capture the people of misfortune? Wasn't she sent to cause trouble? As if thinking of something, the Divine Word Master's expression suddenly changed. He looked at Mu Xiaodao and said, "Miss Mu, you didn't come here by yourself, did you?" Mu Xiaodao blinked innocently and said, "What do you mean by myself?" Seeing this, the Divine Word Master's expression sank. This woman wasn't sent by the laws of the universe. She definitely came here by herself. Thinking of this, the Divine Word Master's expression sank even more. Without the restrictions of the laws of the universe, this woman could ascend to the heavens. Thinking of this, the Divine Word Master opened his palm and was about to recite an incantation to report this matter to the Cosmos God Court. At this moment, Mu Xiaodao suddenly said, "If you dare speak nonsense, I will hack you to death." Saying this, she opened her palm and a flying knife appeared in it. The Divine Word Master's expression froze. At this moment, his heart was crumbling. How could there be such a strange woman? Was this woman really not from the other side? Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly transformed into a ray of sword light and charged towards the experts of the Great Qing dynasty. Instant kill. The sword light lit up and a head flew into the air. Yi Xian was about to attack again when a flying knife suddenly slashed towards him. Yi Xian's expression changed and he swiftly turned around and slashed down with his sword. For domains. Boom. Yi Xian was sent flying. After sending Yi Xian flying with a single strike, Mu Xiaodao was about to attack again. Right at this moment, the cosmos barrier seal in the distance suddenly shattered. In the next moment, a furious roar suddenly sounded out from the spatial teleportation channel. "Who dares to bully the young master of my undying imperial clan? Who dares? Who dares?" Countless experts roared in unison from within the spatial passageway. Following that, countless experts charged out of the spatial passageway. Countless powerful auras caused the starry sky to tremble. At the same time, the space around the starry skies suddenly trembled. In the next moment, space split open and 10 old men walked out. Elders of the 10 realms. The Grand Elder who led the group roared, "Who dares to bully the young master of the undying imperial clan?" Rumble. Behind the 10 elders, countless experts charged out like a tsunami, causing the starry sky to tremble. "Who dares to bully the young master of the undying imperial clan?" For a time, countless furious roars resounded incessantly from the surroundings. At the same time, a dense mass of experts appeared in the starry sky. All of them had rushed over from the 10 realms. In just a few breaths of time, there were hundreds of thousands of people in the starry sky. F.O. Chapter 1562. In the blink of an eye, the situation had turned around. As soon as the Undying Emperor clan's experts appeared, they charged towards the experts of the Daoist dynasty. In an instant, the experts of the Daoist dynasty were slaughtered. Seeing this, Han Dao's face fell, and he turned to look at the Divine Word Master, his eyes bulging out. "Divine Word Master. The Divine Word Master's expression was extremely gloomy. Suddenly, Dongli Yasuo pointed at the Divine Word Master. "Stop him." As soon as she finished speaking, she charged towards the Divine Word Master. The Divine Word Master's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly said, "Miss Mu, stop." As he spoke up to this point, he suddenly turned his head, but Mu Xiaodao had already vanished. She fled. The Divine Word Master's mind went blank. That woman actually ran? Is that how she betrayed her teammates? The Divine Word Master didn't have time to think about it, and he suddenly pressed forward, "Greater teleportation." As soon as he finished speaking, a huge circle of light appeared beneath the feet of all the experts of the Cosmos God Court, and then all of them vanished. All of them, including the remaining experts of the Dangsing dynasty. All of them were teleported away. Dongli Yasuo's face fell when she saw this. She hadn't expected the Divine Word Master to be so terrifying to the point of teleporting all the experts of the Cosmos God Court away. That's a bit heaven-defying. The experts of the Undying Emperor clan were stunned as well. They're gone just like that? Meanwhile, Dongli Yasuo suddenly said, "Return to the undying world." She turned around and left once she finished speaking. All the experts in the surroundings left as well. The mysterious woman walked over to Yi Xian. "Let's return to the undying world first." Yi Xian fell silent for a moment before he nodded, and then he followed the others into the 9th dimension. The starry sky gradually returned to its calm state. Right at this moment, a woman appeared soundlessly here. She wore a tight linen robe with a rope tied around her waist, and it made her slender figure seem even more slender and graceful. She wore a pair of linen shoes as well, and her toes were completely exposed. They were pure white like jade, and they were very beautiful. The woman clasped her hands behind her back, her expression indifferent. Her gaze was fixed on the barrier leading to the 9 dimensions. After a long time, the woman suddenly turned her head. Not too far away, there was a woman playing with a saber. It was Mu Xiaodao. Mu Xiaodao looked at the woman and said with a smile, "Ma-yi, long time no see." One of the guardians of the universe's laws. Lini was expressionless. "The Divine Court has orders." Go back. Go back." Mu Xiaodao blinked. "You want me to go back?" Ma-yi glanced at Mu Xiaodao. Mu Xiaodao chuckled, "All right, I'm going back now." With that, she turned and ran. Ma-yi shook his head. She knew that this woman would not go back. At this moment, Mu Xiaodao turned back. Mu Xiaodao looked at Lini. "I saw EXN." Ma-yi frowned slightly. Mu Xiaodao said seriously, "The laws of the universe might be following her." As she spoke, she glanced at the surroundings and said, "Don't tell anyone that I told you." With that, she turned and ran. In the blink of an eye, she disappeared into the horizon. Ma-yi was silent for a long time. Then she turned and took a step. With this step, she crossed dozens of star fields. Somewhere in the starry sky, the Divine Word Master suddenly looked up. The moment he did, Ma-yi appeared in front of him. The Divine Word Master nodded slightly. "Miss Ma-yi." Ma-yi opened her palm. A purple token suddenly floated out of her palm and landed in front of the Divine Word Master. Seeing this purple token, the Divine Word Master's expression changed slightly. Divine token. The owner of this token could mobilize all the experts of the Divine Court, excluding the guardians of the universe's laws. The Divine Word Master bowed slightly. "Your orders, miss." Ma-yi looked at the Divine Word Master. "Exterminate the Undying Emperor clan." The Divine Word Master took the token. "Understood." Green City, Yi Clan, Ancestral Hall. Ancestors, Yi Xian has no talent and no virtue. From this moment onwards, Yi Xian's position as prince will be replaced by Yi Lang. The one who spoke was an old man in black robes. Not far behind the old man stood a youth. The youth had a faint smile on his face. This person was Yi Lang. Beside him were the elders of the Yi residence. "Why?" At this moment, a timid voice rang out in the ancestral hall. Everyone turned to look. There was a little girl standing at the entrance. She was about 12 or 13 years old. Her hands were tightly gripping the hem of her skirt. Her face was sickly pale. She looked a little weak, and there was even a hint of fear in her eyes. This little girl was called Yi Ling. She was Yi Xian's younger sister. When she heard that the clan was going to replace Yi Xian, she disregarded her illness and rushed over. The black-robed old man frowned. Yi Ling, what are you doing? The little girl called Yi Ling bowed slightly towards the people in the ancestral hall. She said timidly, Grand Elder, my brother Yi Xian is the prince. Why did you cripple him for no reason? The Grand Elder looked coldly at Yi Ling. This is a matter of the clan. Why are you interrupting? Yi Ling was clearly a little fearful. She did not dare to look the Great Elder in the eye, but she did not leave. Instead, she mustered up her courage and walked into the ancestral hall. She bowed to the elders on both sides of the hall and said, Elders, my brother is currently fighting with the Li family for the mining rights of the mine in Nanshan. He is now fighting for the family, and it is unknown whether he is alive or dead. However, the family has used a groundless excuse to remove his position as the crown prince. This is truly unfair. Impudent. The Grand Elder suddenly raged. Whether he's crippled or not, it's not up to a little girl like you to decide. Men, drag her away. At this time, the new crown prince, Yi Lang, suddenly laughed. He should be flogged 30 times as a warning to others. The Grand Elder replied coldly, then flog him 30 times. Very quickly, 2 guards of the Yi residence rushed in. Yi Ling clenched her fists. She said angrily, This is unfair. My brother has risked his life for the clan for so many years. Even now, he's fighting for the clan. The clan is unfair to him. One of the guards glanced at the new crown prince, Yi Lang. He knew that this was his chance to shine. The guard sneered. Young Master Yi Lang inherits the title of crown prince. What are you yelling about? As he spoke, he raised his hand and slapped Yi Ling's face. Slap. The crisp sound of the slap was heard. The right side of Yi Ling's face instantly turned red and swollen. However, she did not cry. Instead, she covered her cheek tightly. Yi Lang looked at the guard and smiled. What's your name? The guard hurriedly bowed. I'm Zhang Mu. Greetings, Crown Prince. Yi Lang nodded. You're not bad. After I become the Crown Prince, I'll need 10 guards. You can be my guard from now on. Hearing this, Zhang Mu was overjoyed. He hurriedly bowed deeply. I'll go through fire and water for the Crown Prince. I'll do anything for you. Yi Lang nodded. Drag him away. This person is causing a ruckus in the ancestral hall. Do not hold back. Understood? Zhang Mu glanced at Yi Lang. When he saw the killing intent in Yi Lang's eyes, he understood. He immediately grabbed Yi Ling's hair and dragged her out. At this time, Zhang Mu seemed to have seen something and stopped. Within the ancestral hall, everyone turned their heads to look outside. Not far from the ancestral hall, a young man was walking towards the ancestral hall. He was wearing a tight-fitting robe that was tattered and covered in blood. This person was Yi Xian, who had rushed back from Nanshan. Seeing Yi Xian, Yi Lang's lips curled into a cold smile. Within the ancestral hall, all the elders began to frown. The Great Elder narrowed his eyes. His face was dark and gloomy. No one knew what he was thinking. From afar, when Yi Xian saw Zhang Mu dragging Yi Ling, his face turned savage. Who gave you the guts to touch my sister? When Zhang Mu saw Yi Xian, his face changed. He quickly looked at Yi Lang and was about to speak. At this time, Yi Xian leaped in front of him like a ferocious tiger. Before the latter could react, Yi Xian's fist landed on his face. Zhang Mu felt a wave of dizziness, and he stumbled and fell. Yi Lang did not stop there. He charged towards Zhang Mu again. At this time, Yi Lang suddenly roared, Yi Xian, he's my man. How dare you? Yi Xian suddenly stepped on Zhang Mu's chest. Pooh! Zhang Mu spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Yi Lang's face turned ugly. Yi Xian lifted his head to look at him, asking savagely, Your man? As he spoke, he stomped on Zhang Mu's face. Zhang Mu's face turned into a bloody mess as he screamed, Prince, save me. Yi Xian did not care about Zhang Mu as he walked to Yi Ling's side. Seeing Yi Ling's state, Yi Xian felt as though his heart was being cut by a knife. He clenched his fists, and his entire body trembled. When Yi Ling saw Yi Xian, her tears flowed. "Brother, it hurts, it hurts." Hearing this, Yi Xian's expression turned savage. In the next instant he charged in front of Zhang Mu and kicked Zhang Mu's head. Qingqing, Yi Clan, Ancestral Hall. Ancestors, Yi Xian has no talent, no virtue. From now on, Yi Xian's position as prince shall be replaced by Yi Lang. The one who spoke was an old man in black robes. Not far behind the old man, there was a youth with a faint smile on his face. This person was Yi Lang. On both sides, there were the elders of the Yi clan. Why? Right at this moment, a slightly timid voice suddenly resounded within the ancestral hall. Everyone turned to look and saw a little girl standing at the door. She was about 12 or 13 years old, and her hands were tightly gripping the hem of her skirt. Her face had a sickly pallor, and she looked a little weak. There was even a trace of fear in her eyes. This girl was called Yi Ling, and she was Yi Xian's younger sister. When she heard that Yi Xian was to be replaced, she disregarded her illness and rushed over. The black-robed old man frowned. "Yi Ling, what are you doing?" The little girl called Yi Ling bowed to everyone in the hall as she asked timidly, "Great elder, my brother Yi Xian is the prince. Why did you cripple him for no reason?" The great elder looked at Yi Ling coldly. "This is a matter of the clan, what are you interrupting for?" Yi Ling was obviously afraid, not daring to look at the great elder, but she did not leave. Instead, she plucked up her courage and walked into the hall. Once again, she bowed to the elders. "Dear elders, my brother is fighting with the Li clan over the mining rights at Nanshan. He is fighting for the clan, and it is unknown whether he is dead or alive. Yet, the clan is using a groundless excuse to strip him of his position. This is really unfair. Impudent." The great elder suddenly raged. "Whether he's stripped or not, it's not up to a little girl like you to decide. Men, drag her away." At this time, the new prince, Yi Lang, suddenly laughed. "He should be flogged 30 times as a warning to others." The great elder replied coldly, "Then flog him 30 times. Very quickly, 2 Yi clan guards rushed in. Yi Ling clenched her fists and said angrily, "This is unfair. My brother has risked his life for the clan for so many years, and even now, he is fighting for the clan. The clan is unfair to him." One of the guards glanced at the new prince, Yi Lang. He knew that this was his chance to shine. The guard sneered, "Young master Yi Lang inherits the prince's position. What are you yelling about?" As he spoke, he raised his hand and slapped Yi Ling's face. Slap. A crisp slap sounded, and the right side of Yi Ling's face instantly swelled up. However, she did not cry, and only held her cheek tightly. Yi Lang looked at the guard and smiled. "What's your name?" The guard quickly bowed. "This subordinate, Zhang Mu, greets the prince." Yi Lang nodded. "You're not bad. After I become the prince, I will need 10 guards. From now on, you will be my guard." Hearing this, Zhang Mu was overjoyed and quickly bowed deeply. "This subordinate will go through fire and water for the prince, and I will do anything for you." Yi Lang nodded. "Drag him away. This person is causing trouble in the ancestral hall. Do not hold back, understand?" Zhang Mu glanced at Yi Lang, and when he saw the murderous intent in Yi Lang's eyes, he understood. He immediately grabbed Yi Ling's hair and dragged her out. At this moment, Zhang Mu suddenly stopped as if he had seen something. Inside the ancestral hall, everyone turned their heads to look outside the hall. Not far from the ancestral hall, a young man was walking towards the ancestral hall. The young man was wearing a tight-fitting robe, and the robe was tattered, and there was blood everywhere. The young man was Yi Xian, who had rushed back from Nanshan. Seeing Yi Xian, Yi Lang's mouth curled into a cold smile. In the ancestral hall, the elders frowned. The great elder squinted his eyes, and his face was dark. No one knew what he was thinking. From afar, when Yi Xian saw Zhang Mu dragging Yi Ling, his face turned savage. "Who gave you the guts to touch my sister?" When Zhang Mu saw Yi Xian, his face changed. He quickly looked at Yi Lang and was about to speak. At this time, Yi Xian leaped in front of him like a ferocious tiger. Before the latter could react, Yi Xian's fist landed on his face. Bang! Zhang Mu felt a wave of dizziness, and he stumbled and fell. Yi Lang did not stop there, and charged towards Zhang Mu again. At this time, Yi Lang suddenly roared, "Yi Xian, he's my man, how dare you!" Yi Xian suddenly stepped on Zhang Mu's chest. Pooh! Zhang Mu spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Yi Lang's face turned ugly, while Yi Xian lifted his head to look at him, asking savagely, "Your man?" As he spoke, he stomped on Zhang Mu's face. Zhang Mu's face turned into a bloody mess as he screamed, "Prince, save me." Yi Xian did not care about Zhang Mu as he walked to Yi Ling's side. Seeing Yi Ling's state, Yi Xian felt as though his heart was being sliced by a knife. He clenched his fists, and his entire body trembled. When Yi Ling saw Yi Xian, her tears flowed. "Brother, it hurts, it hurts." Hearing this, Yi Xian's expression turned savage. In the next instant he charged in front of Zhang Mu, and kicked Zhang Mu's head. Ping! Chapter 1563. When the soul is gone, the face is red, and the infatuated girl waits for her lover in the wedding hall. How can a pair of mandarin ducks not be matched? Heaven and earth chase after each other. The woman just sat there quietly, her red makeup like fire. In front of the door, Yi Xian looked like he had lost his soul. After a long time, Yi Xian knelt in front of the door. He held his head with both hands and said with a trembling voice, "I'm sorry, self-blame." At this moment, Yi Xian was blaming himself very much. Those immortal emperor soldiers, even Yi Xian did not know who they were, but they were willing to die to protect him. And these immortal emperor soldiers, they could be someone else's son, father, or husband. What did he do to deserve so many people to die for him? Yi Xian felt like needles were stabbing his heart. At this moment, Higashili Yasuo appeared next to Yi Xian. Looking at Yi Xian, who was kneeling in pain, Higashili Yasuo was half happy and half worried. She was happy because Yi Xian was loyal and righteous. She had all the information about Yi Xian and what Yi Xian had experienced. She concluded that this was a young man who was loyal and righteous. In terms of character, there was nothing to complain about. But she was worried because Yi Xian was too loyal. If a family head was too loyal, he might act on his emotions. This was not a good thing. As a family head, he must not act on his emotions. He must consider the situation. If he acted on his emotions, he might cause countless lives to be lost because of his personal feelings. Fortunately, Yi Xian was decisive and ruthless, especially when it came to dealing with his enemies. He never showed mercy. This was very good. As a family, he must be ruthless. After a while, Higashili Yasuo collected her thoughts and turned around. Family head Xiao. As soon as the voice fell, an old man appeared in front of the door. The old man quickly bowed to Dong Lijin and Yi Xian respectfully. When he saw the woman in the room, the old man lowered his head slightly, and his body gradually trembled. Higashi Yasushi looked at the woman in the room and said softly, "Although Li Qing has not married Miss Xiao, but..." The old man hurriedly said, "Li Qing is my Xiao clan son-in-law. This subordinate will bury the two of them together. Since they are not fated in this life, let them reunite in the next life." Towards the end, the old man's voice trembled even more. Dong Lijing nodded. "There's a super spirit vein on the southern mountain outside the city. It's more suitable for cultivation. Xiao clan move there. Other than that, the Xiao clan can send 2 people to the Undying Realm every 10 years to train with the geniuses of our Undying Imperial clan. Whatever our Undying Imperial clan's geniuses have, they also have. As long as our Undying Imperial clan exists, the Xiao clan will forever exist." The elderly man kneeled down and said with a trembling voice, "Thank you, leader." He knew that this time, the fate of the Xiao clan had changed. But this was at the cost of his daughter's life. Thinking of this, the elderly man turned around and walked into the room. He gently held the woman's hand and wept. "Girl, so cruel. You can die for him. But have you ever thought about your father? Too cruel." Outside the room, Higashi Yasushi pulled Yi Xian up and said softly, "Let's go." Then, she turned around and left with Yi Xian. Behind them, the leader of the Shao clan was crying like a child. Higashi Yasushi brought Yi Xian to walk on the streets of the city. On the streets, people bowed to them. Obviously, they all knew Higashi Yasushi and Yi Xian. Yi Xian's eyes were lifeless as if he had lost his soul. Higashi Yasushi said softly, "Do you know how many worlds our undying imperial clan controls?" Yi Xian shook his head. Higashi Yasushi said, "The 7-dimensional universe, the 8-dimensional universe, the 9-dimensional universe, and the 10 realms. There are countless other small worlds." Saying this, she looked at the horizon and said softly, "Our every word and action can determine the life and death of countless people." Yi Xian stopped and looked at Higashi Yasushi. "I don't want people to die for me." Higashi Yasushi looked at Yi Xian. "He didn't die for me. He died for the honor of his clan. Do you know how many people want to join the undying imperial army? Many, many people. These people's life stream is to join the undying imperial army, including Li Qing. He joined the army when he was 12 years old. His life stream is to join the undying imperial army and become a member." Saying this, she looked around and said, "The undying imperial clan's existence today was exchanged with the blood of countless ancestors and experts. The clan's honor. Every member of the undying imperial clan will fight for the clan's honor. They will even die for the clan, including me. I know that since I was young, I wasn't loved and trusted by the clan. I don't have any sense of honor for the clan. I can understand that, and I won't force it. However, I want to tell you that as the young master of the undying imperial clan, countless people will follow and fight for the clan. They believe, follow, and even die for the clan. Their every word and action can determine the life and death of countless people." Yi Xian was silent. Actually, when he saw so many people risking their lives for him, he was deeply moved. He was the young master of the undying imperial clan. This was the first time he had seen such a united clan. These people would really die for the undying imperial clan. Higashi Yasushi said, "There are 2 reasons why we came back and risked our lives for the clan. First, there is a chance to break through the shackles of the undying imperial clan. Second, and also the most important reason, is that we have the undying imperial bloodline. The blood that flows in our bodies is the same as ours. Of course, the clan's benefits are the most important. The reason why we value it so much is because there is a chance to change the undying imperial bloodline. The clan is too big. Emotions are a bit of a luxury in the clan." Yi Xian said, "You are very frank." Higashi Yasushi smiled and said, "You are a smart person. Is there any use in playing tricks? It's useless, isn't it?" Yi Xian was silent for a moment, then said, "Back then, the azure-robed man and the undying imperial clan," Higashi Yasushi said softly, "I don't hate him. Do you remember what I said just now? As the clan leader, every word and action can determine the life and death of countless people. At that time, the clan leader of the undying imperial clan, who is also my father, made a decision that almost destroyed the undying imperial clan because of his greed. He wanted to devour our blood to break through the shackles of the undying imperial bloodline. Second sister and third sister had a falling out with my father because of this. When the azure-robed man found out about this, he killed his way from the 6th dimension to the undying imperial clan. That battle." She looked at Yi Xian and said, "Do you want to see it?" Yi Xian looked at Higashi Yasushi and said, "Can you see it?" Higashi Yasushi nodded and said, "Yes. Because of that battle, I used a secret technique to preserve it." As she spoke, she looked at Yi Xian. "You should try to understand that grudge. Because he is the only person who can resolve the grudge between the undying imperial clan and him." Yi Xian said softly, "Do you hate him?" Higashi Yasushi smiled and said, "As the clan leader of the undying imperial clan, I hate him because countless clansmen died at his hands. But I don't have the right to hate him, and I don't dare to hate him. As an ant, I don't hate him, and I can even understand him." Yi Xian said, "Being the clan leader must be very tiring, right?" Higashi Yasushi smiled and said, "Very tiring. Actually, the clan leader should have been my mother because she was more talented. But because of that matter, not only did she fall out with my father, but she also hated the clan. I just didn't expect that she would take the initiative to contact the clan for me. Yi Xian did not say anything. Higashi Yasushi said softly, I also know a little about what happened between you and her. Don't hate her. The reason why she targeted you is because she thought that her child died for you. She did so many things just to get justice for her child. Yi Xian still did not say anything. Higashi Yasushi smiled and said, let's not talk about these things. Let's go and see that great battle. She placed her right hand on Yi Xian's shoulder and the two of them disappeared. On a certain mountain peak. The Forbidden Mountain. This was a forbidden area of the undying imperial clan, and ordinary people could not come here. Dongli Jing led Yi Xian to a mountain wall. She opened her palm, and a mysterious force suddenly floated up from her palm. The force slowly floated up and then sank into the mountain wall. Soon, the mountain wall began to tremble. Not long after, a huge light screen suddenly appeared on the mountain wall, and a man appeared on the light screen. That man was dressed in a green robe. A man in green clothes. At this time, Xiaoda suddenly floated out of Yi Xian's body and jumped up and down. Little master, it's master. It's master. Xiaoda was very happy. Yi Xian smiled and looked at the screen of light. On the screen of light, the man in green clothes was tearing space. That was the six-dimensional universe. At this time, the man in green clothes had a cold expression, and his eyes were scarlet red. His body emitted a terrifying killing intent and evil qi. Even through the screen of light, Yi Xian felt his heart palpitate. He had never seen such a terrifying killing intent and evil qi before. In the screen of light, the man in green clothes suddenly stopped. Not far in front of him was an old man. The old man looked at the man in green clothes and shouted angrily, "Impudent! You dare to trespass into the seven-dimensional universe. Qi!" A ray of blood suddenly slashed the old man's throat, and his head flew off. The man in green clothes directly entered the seven-dimensional universe. After entering the seven-dimensional universe, countless experts of the seven-dimensional universe rushed over. The man in green clothes waved his sword. In the distant horizon, hundreds of thousands of heads flew into the sky and then fell down in an orderly manner. Blood instantly dyed the entire horizon red. At this time, the man in green clothes had already arrived in front of the barrier that led to the eight-dimensional universe. Without any superfluous words, the man in green clothes waved his sword again. Bang! The eight-dimensional universe's barrier was like a piece of paper and directly turned into nothingness. The man in green clothes raised his sword and entered the eight-dimensional universe. Without any superfluous words, he waved his sword again. Within a radius of tens of millions of miles, countless heads flew into the sky. Blood was like a fountain, and the entire horizon was directly dyed red. It was like a huge bloody cloth. This sword had killed at least hundreds of thousands of super experts. All of them were experts of the Undying Emperor clan. The man in green clothes took a step forward. With this step, he directly arrived in front of the nine-dimensional universe's barrier. Without any superfluous words, the man in green clothes waved his sword again. Bang! The terrifying nine-dimensional universe's barrier directly turned into nothingness. It was as weak as a piece of paper. The man in green clothes stepped into the nine-dimensional universe. At this time, in the horizon above his head, a mysterious force suddenly appeared. The nine-dimensional Tendo. This was because the man in green clothes' evil energy and killing intent were eroding the nine-dimensional universe's source. Even the Undying Emperor clan did not dare to easily destroy the nine-dimensional universe's source. But now, there was actually someone eroding the nine-dimensional universe's source. How could the Tendo tolerate this? A powerful pressure constantly pressed down on the surroundings. At this time, the man in green clothes raised his head and looked. Scram! In the starry sky, a shadow quietly condensed. But the next moment, the shadow directly disappeared without a trace. The powerful pressure and aura in the horizon retreated like the tide, as if it had never appeared. He confirmed that this was someone that he could not afford to offend. The Tendo came quickly and disappeared just as quickly. The man in green clothes took a step forward. With this step, he directly arrived in the undying realm. Just as he arrived in the undying realm, an old man suddenly appeared in front of the man in green clothes. The old man looked at the man in green clothes, cupped his fists, and said in a deep voice, "Yang." Just as he said this word, the old man's head directly flew. His soul was obliterated. The man in green clothes held his sword in hand as he walked towards the distance. His eyes were scarlet red, and his expression was quite ferocious. "How dare you touch my sons? Who gave you the undying emperor clan the courage to do that? How presumptuous! How dare you run wild in my undying realm?" Suddenly, a furious shout resounded from afar. In the next moment, an old man appeared in front of the man in green clothes. However, he'd only just arrived before the man in green clothes when a sword stabbed into the center of the man's forehead. The old man's eyes opened wide, and they were filled with disbelief. "I actually didn't have the ability to fight back at all?" He was instantly killed by a single sword strike. No matter how terrifying the undying bloodline was, it was useless. All the experts of the undying emperor clan were shocked. Who's that man? That was the question in the minds of countless experts of the undying emperor clan. Suddenly, a white-haired old man appeared here. It was the patriarch of the undying emperor clan, Dong Liao. Dong Liao gazed at Yi Xian and was about to speak when the man in green clothes suddenly appeared in front of him. Dong Liao's expression changed drastically, and he swiftly smashed his fist forward. A fist mark flashed out from his fist, and it was burning with raging flames. The energy of the undying bloodline. The man in green clothes stabbed his sword forward, and it pierced through the image of the fist. A moment later, his sword instantly arrived at the center of Dong Liao's forehead. The surroundings fell deathly silent to the point a falling needle could be heard. The formidable patriarch of the undying emperor clan lost just like that? He didn't even have the ability to fight back? Their eyes were filled with disbelief and terror. Suddenly, a woman shouted, "Yang Yi!" It was none other than the mysterious woman, Yi Xian's mother. She gazed at the man in green clothes and spoke with a trembling voice, "He's my father." The man in green clothes suddenly turned around and roared furiously, "When a man kills a woman, shut up." As he spoke, he suddenly slashed his sword down. Dong Liao's body was instantly slashed into two, and blood and internal organs sprayed all over the ground. P.S. The poem at the beginning was written by a reader, and the reader's name is user 129446288. I'm ashamed. Even though I like ancient poems as well, my poems aren't serious at all. I'm ashamed. This reader can add me and get a physical book because it's really well written. However, I didn't read it in vertical and horizontal, so I don't know if you'll be able to find me. That'll depend on the will of the heavens. In the end, there's only a single chapter today. Because I've noticed that I haven't even finished a single chapter. I want to give it a try. I admit that I drank a bit of beer just now, and it's getting to my head. I'm getting a little carried away. However, I'm going to get carried away today. Don't be a coward, just fight. In any case, you don't know where I live. Chapter 1564. At this moment, the entire undying world was deathly silent. The invincible patriarch of the undying world had been killed by the green-clothed man just like that. He'd been killed with a single strike. Moreover, he hadn't even been able to say a single word before he died. The patriarch of the undying imperial clan had died the most aggrieved death in history. As for the mysterious woman, her mind had gone blank as well. She hated her father as well, but it wasn't to the point where she wanted him dead. However, the green-clothed man didn't stop there. He turned around and looked towards the right. There were a few dozen elders of the undying imperial clan there. All of them were peak-stage experts. However, as soon as the green-clothed man swung his sword, the heads of those elders flew into the air. All of them had been instantly killed. They didn't even have the ability to fight back. At this moment, the experts of the undying imperial clan felt despair. At this moment, they finally understood that numbers were meaningless before the green-clothed man. Suddenly, a voice resounded from the depths of the undying world. Ancestor summon. Ancestor summon. As soon as these words were spoken, all the experts of the undying imperial clan roared furiously in unison. He was their last hope. The ancestor of the undying imperial clan. The first person to possess the undying bloodline. Everyone watched with anticipation as an old man appeared in the sky above the undying world. The old man wore a black robe, and all the experts of the undying imperial clan couldn't help but kneel down and kowtow to him. Bloodline suppression. It was a suppression that came from the depths of their bloodline. Even though they were blessed by nature by cultivating the undying bloodline, it had a fatal flaw, and it was that they would be suppressed by their ancestral bloodline. The old man gazed at the green-clothed man, and his gaze gradually became solemn. Danger. That was what he felt. The old man was just about to speak when the green-clothed man stabbed his sword forward. The old man's pupils constricted, and he smashed his fist forward. It was a very simple strike. A very simple punch. Under everyone's watchful eyes, a sword pierced through the old man's hand and pierced through his throat along his hand. Instant kill. It was an instant kill. At this moment, all the experts of the undying world felt despair. Even their ancestor had been instantly killed. How the hell were they supposed to continue fighting? At this moment, Dong Lijing's eyes were filled with bewilderment. Was the undying imperial clan going to disappear just like that? At this moment, the green-clothed man turned to look at Dong Lijing. Dong Lijing's expression instantly changed, and she stared fixedly at the green-clothed man while clenching her fists tightly. There was no fear in her eyes. There were no cowards in the undying emperor clan. Even if the entire clan were to die, they would never surrender. Just as the green-robed man was about to make his move, the mysterious woman suddenly stood in front of Dong Lijing. She looked at the green-robed man with pleading eyes. Let them go. Can I? The green-robed man held the sword in his right hand, and his eyes were like a sea of blood. At this moment, a voice floated over from the side. Forget it. Not far behind the azure-robed man stood a woman. She wore a long green dress and looked demure and elegant. Hearing the woman's words, the green-clothed man's hostility and killing intent gradually disappeared. After a long time, he returned to normal. The green-robed man turned around and held the woman's hand. He said softly, "Qingsher said forget it, so let's forget it." After saying that, he pulled the woman and walked towards the sky. The woman glanced at the corpses on the ground and spoke softly, "Don't kill so much in the future." The green-clothed man hurriedly nodded. "Yes, yes." The woman said again, "Don't lose your temper so easily. They are all afraid of you." The green-clothed man nodded and said softly, "All right, I will do my best not to lose my temper in the future." The woman glanced at the green-clothed man. "Are you sure?" The green-clothed man said seriously, "I promise." The woman nodded slightly. She held the green-clothed man's hand, and soon, the two of them disappeared into the horizon. In front of the cliff, the scene stopped as the green-clothed man and woman left. Yi Xian was silent. No one knew what he was thinking. Dong Lijing said softly, "After that battle, our undying emperor clan's vitality was greatly damaged. Fortunately, we don't have any natural enemies, so we were able to develop." As she spoke, she looked at Yi Xian. "Now that you are the young master of the undying emperor clan, you will deal with this grudge in the future." Yi Xian smiled bitterly. Deal with it himself? How was he going to deal with it himself? It seemed like he couldn't defeat this man. Should he call Qing and Big Brother to beat the green-clothed man up? That was a good idea. At this time, Dong Lijing said again, "You have reached the mortal realm. If you want to improve, you can only go beyond the mortal realm." Yi Xian suddenly said, "I want to improve my physical body." Dong Lijing said, "I almost forgot about that. Your physical body was really good before. Is there anything you need?" Yi Xian said in a deep voice, I already have a cultivation technique, but I don't know if the Undying Emperor clan has better ones. Dong Lijing said, Dao body? Yi Xian was surprised. Clan leader, you know about Dao body? Dong Lijing smiled slightly. The owner of the Dao scripture was a very amazing person. He had gone through the 7th and 8th dimensions, and he went all the way up. However, when he was about to enter the 9th dimension, I stopped him. Yi Xian quickly asked, he didn't go to the 9th dimension in the end. Dong Lijing said, I invited him to the 9th dimension as a guest, but he refused. The reason he entered the 9th dimension was because he was curious about it. Later, it was said that he went to the faraway demon domain. Yi Xian was a little curious. Demon domain? Dong Lijing nodded. A very, very far place from here, even further than the heaven domain. To reach the demon domain, even if I tear the star domain apart, I'm afraid it will take at least 1,000,000 years. However, whether it is the heaven domain or the demon domain, to be safe, the Undying Emperor clan has long sent people to investigate this demon domain. I can only say that it is not a simple place. Yi Xian said in a deep voice, what about the heaven domain star domain? Dong Lijing said softly, the heaven domain star domain has hundreds of continents. There are many sects and dynasties there. The strongest dynasty is called the Great Qing Dynasty, which controls more than 100 continents. Apart from the Great Qing Dynasty, there is also a very strong sect called the God Sect, which also controls more than 100 dynasties. Here, she paused and said, this time, the Great Qing Dynasty was sent here by the Cosmos God Court. Obviously, the heaven domain is under the control of the Cosmos God Court. Yi Xian said in a deep voice, do we know much about the Cosmos God Court? Dong Lijing shook her head, we know almost nothing about the Cosmos God Court. We only know that it is a very, very mysterious force. We have not had any dealings with them before, but this time, we have come into contact with them. This Cosmos God Court is more mysterious and powerful than we thought. Yi Xian closed his eyes slowly. He was actually very worried about Xiao Air. Xiao Air defied the calamity law for him. She should be in the Boundless God prison now. However, he did not know where the Boundless God prison was. Thinking of this, Yi Xian said hurriedly, Clan leader, please help me find a place, the Boundless God prison. Dong Lijing nodded, I will send people to look for it immediately. Saying this, she looked at Yi Xian, you cultivate first, I will go settle some things. If you need anything, just tell 7 Star. She will follow you now. Saying this, she disappeared on the spot, and 7 Star appeared in front of Yi Xian. 7 Star held the hilt of the saber at his waist in silence. Yi Xian looked at 7 Star, hesitated for a moment, and then asked, how many members of the Immortal Imperial Army are left? 7 Star remained expressionless, only 2. One is me, and the other is the commander. She was only a vice commander. Yi Xian fell silent for a moment, and then he said, I want to rebuild the Immortal Imperial Army. 7 Star looked at Yi Xian, the clan is already selecting people, but it won't be possible to rebuild it in a short period of time. Yi Xian fell silent for a very long time, and then he said, I will avenge those who died. 7 Star gazed at Yi Xian for a short while, and then she said, if you still apologize, then I will look down on you and resign from my position as vice commander. Because what I need isn't an apology, nor do I need your guilt. What I need is you to avenge those who died. She slowly knelt down on one knee as she spoke. I, 7 Star, am willing to be loyal to the young master. Young master. The way she addressed him as young master represented that she truly submitted to Yi Xian. Yi Xian spoke softly, stand up. 7 Star stood up. Her eyes were filled with tears, but she was forcefully holding them back. Over 100 members of the Immortal Imperial Army were her brothers. Brothers who'd gone through life and death with her countless times. However, all of them had died in battle against the enforcers of the Cosmos Court. Actually, she'd wanted to die in battle against the Darksing Dynasty as well, but the Divine Word Master had taken all of them away. And the reason why she was still alive was because she wanted to take revenge. Yi Xian suddenly said, their families. 7-star said, everything has been arranged. Yixian nodded, good. As soon as he finished speaking, he sat down cross-legged and opened his palm, and Xiao Ta appeared in it. Yixian said, I want that little girl's blood. A white jade bottle suddenly landed in front of Yixian. Xiao Ta suddenly said, young master, you mustn't devour Aria's blood like that. Her blood is extremely powerful. If you devour it by force, your body and soul won't be able to withstand it. Yixian frowned, then what should I do? Xiao Ta said, that's easy. I still have the blood of other demonic beasts. You can use the blood of those low-level demonic beasts to cultivate first. Yixian thought about it and nodded, all right. At this moment, over a dozen white jade bottles landed in front of Yixian. Yixian took a look. Those white jade bottles all contained blood essence, and the energy of this blood essence was very powerful. Yixian was a little shocked. Xiao Ta, where did you get the blood of these demonic beasts? Xiao Ta chuckled. They gave it to me as a show of filial respect. Yixian frowned. Filial respect? Xiao Ta said, they are all raised by Little Bai in my tower. If they want to live a comfortable life here, how can they not please me? Moreover, my relationship with Little Bai is very, very good. If they please me, there will be a lot of benefits. Yixian was about to speak, but at this moment he seemed to have thought of something and suddenly asked, Xiao Ta, you said that little guy raised a group of demonic beasts in your tower? Xiao Ta said, yes. Yixian asked, are they still in the tower? Xiao Ta said, yes. But they are all sleeping. Their sleep is cultivation. Yixian suddenly slapped his thigh and said excitedly, sleep my A***. Ask them to wake up. Xiao Ta. Chapter 1565. Needless to say, Yixian is a bit excited because he didn't expect that this Xiao Ta actually has so many demon beasts living in it. How can the demon beasts that the white little guy raises be ordinary demon beasts? They definitely aren't ordinary demon beasts. And what does he lack the most right now? It's humans. Of course, demon beasts can do it too. However, Xiao Ta is a bit hesitant. Yixian asks, is there a problem? Xiao Ta says, these demon beasts don't have a good temper. Yixian says seriously, are you kidding me? With you here, do you think they would dare to lose their temper? Hearing this, Xiao Ta is excited, young master is right. With me here, whoever dares to not listen to orders, I will immediately chase them out. Yixian hurriedly flatters, Xiao Ta is invincible. Invincible. After Xiao Ta hears this, it is as if it is injected with chicken blood. It suddenly trembles violently and then roars, stop sleeping. All of you wake up. Yixian. At this time, a black pig suddenly appears not far away from Yixian. The pig isn't big, it is just a piglet, but it is really fat, its belly is almost touching the ground. Seeing this pig, Yixian's expression stiffens. At this time, Xiao Ta suddenly says, young master, this is a little pig. Yixian falls into silence, his previous excitement has already been swept away. At this time, the little pig opens its eyes, it hums, it seems a bit unhappy that Xiao Ta disturbed its sleep. Xiao Ta floats in front of the little pig, show the young master your skills. The little pig glances at Yixian in the distance, then it directly ignores him and continues to sleep on the ground. Yixian looks at Xiao Ta. Xiao Ta is furious, get up for me. Xiao Ta shuddered. He looked at Xiao Ta and said with dissatisfaction, Xiao Ta, what are you doing? Xiao Ta slammed into the pig's head. Boom. The surrounding space trembled violently, but the little pig did not move at all. Seeing this, Yixian's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. Xiao Ta said angrily, little pig, open your pig eyes and look. This is little master. Piglet looked at Yixian in the distance. Very quickly, its pupils suddenly shrank. Obviously, it had discovered Yixian's bloodline. The piglet hesitated for a moment, then crawled in front of Yixian and gently rubbed against Yixian's feet. Obviously, this was an acknowledgement of Yixian's identity. Its boss was Little White, but who was Little White's boss? Boss was the green-robed man. He did not dare to offend the green-robed man's son. Yi Xian lightly rubbed the piglet's head. Show me a move or two. He was also very curious about this piglet's strength. Because from what he saw just now, this piglet was able to take on Xiao Ta's attack head-on. It was definitely not simple. The piglet nudged Yi Xian's feet. Suddenly, it turned around and leaped into the sky. Boom! This collision caused the entire sky to turn pitch black. Seeing this, Yi Xian was dumbfounded. Was this a mother asterisk king pig? Just now, the piglet's collision had really frightened him. Because he might not have been able to withstand that collision. At this moment, 7 stars suddenly appeared beside Yi Xian. She looked at the pitch-black sky, then looked at the piglet. The commotion is too big. Yi Xian looked around. As expected, there were already many Undying Emperor clan experts around. Yi Xian said, "All of you retreat." As soon as he finished speaking, the surrounding Undying Emperor clan experts retreated. Yi Xian looked at the piglet. He was still extremely shocked. This piglet was really quite ferocious. However, that white little fellow was even more amazing. She had actually raised a piglet to such an extent. If she was given a dragon to raise, when he thought of this, Yi Xian hurriedly looked at Xiao Ta. Xiao Ta, there are also demonic beasts. Xiao Ta hesitated for a moment. Then he said, "Do you really want to see?" Yi Xian hurriedly nodded. Of course. As soon as he finished speaking, a few demonic beasts suddenly appeared before him. However, when Yi Xian saw these demonic beasts, his expression froze. These are demonic beasts? Yi Xian even suspected that he was mistaken. There was a large rooster in front of him. It looked extremely majestic. In terms of chickens, it could be said to be a fighting chicken among fighting chickens. Of course, it was a chicken. Other than the chicken, there was also a little puppy. It was extremely small. Its entire body was snow white, and its ears were drooping. It had to be said that it was truly very cute. Of course, it was a dog. Beside the little puppy was a sheep. The sheep was also not very big. It was very small. It had 2 horns on its head. It was truly very cute. Of course, it really was a sheep. Beside the sheep was a monkey. Moreover, it was a monkey that had been dressed up. Because the monkey was wearing garish clothes. He did not recognize those clothes. He had only seen one person wear those clothes. That little girl with horns on her head. It was worth mentioning that the monkey was also looking at him. The monkey's eyes were filled with curiosity. Looking at the group before him, Yi Xian fell silent. What kind of monsters did that white little fellow raise? He knew that these fellows were all very powerful. However, to bring this group of fellows out to fight, it was truly a bit unsightly. 7 Stars' expression was also rather strange. She was also speechless. At this moment, Xiao Ta suddenly said, "Young lord, don't underestimate them. They grew up eating little white's purple aura. Moreover, other than the purple aura, there are all kinds of natural treasures and elixirs. Most importantly, they have Arya's blood in their bodies. Arya has also fed them. They are really very cute. Oh no, they are very fierce." At this moment, 7 Stars suddenly said, "Let me try." As she said that, she looked at the group of demonic beasts in the distance. "Which one of you will do it?" The chicken ignored 7 Star and continued to peck at the rice. However, it had a look of disdain. It looked at Xiao Ta. Obviously, it wanted to return to the tower. Xiao Ta said angrily, "All of you better perform well. Don't embarrass me." At this moment, the monkey suddenly walked in front of 7 Star. It opened its right hand and a pitch-black iron rod appeared in its hand. The next moment, it suddenly swept out with the rod. Boom! 7 Star drew his sword and slashed. Boom! A wave of saber light erupted, and 7 Star was directly blasted back by over 1 kilometer. The monkey was blasted back as well. However, in the next moment, it suddenly leaped up and suddenly smashed its rod down at 7 Star. 7 Star's expression was calm as she slashed up diagonally. Heda! Bang! The rod smashed down, and 7 Star retreated explosively again. On the other hand, the monkey suddenly vanished on the spot. In the next moment, numerous afterimages appeared around 7-star, and the sound of space being torn apart resounded incessantly. As he watched the battle between 7-star and the monkey, Yixian's expression became solemn. He noticed that the monkey's combat instinct was extremely terrifying. It wasn't inferior to 7-star, who had experienced countless battles. Meanwhile, Xiao suddenly said, "Young lord, this monkey is fierce, right?" Yixian nodded. "Very." Xiao Ta smiled and said, "This monkey is frequently trained by area." "No, it should be said that it is frequently beaten by area. Besides Xiaoniu, its fighting ability is the most ferocious." "Xiaoniu." Yixian glanced at the surroundings and then he said, "There's no Xiaoniu." Xiao Ta said, "Xiaoniu and big brother Xianxia are in closed-door cultivation to break through, and they're unable to come out for now." Yixian hurriedly asked, "Xiaoniu and Xianxia? Are they even more formidable?" Xiao Ta smiled and said, "Of course. Especially big brother Xianxia. He's extremely good at fighting. Xiaoniu is formidable as well, and there's also Little Wolf. They were by Big Sister Aria's side all those years ago, and they're extremely ferocious. Especially when they have Big Sister Aria's blood within them. Besides Big Sister Aria, no other demon beast's bloodline can suppress them." Yixian was just about to speak when the monkey and 7-star stopped. 7-star glanced at the monkey, and then he said, "They're very strong." The monkey's strongest point wasn't its combat instinct, but its physical body. It was too hard. Even a few of her strikes earlier weren't able to break through its defenses. The monkey returned to Yixian's side with his rod in hand, and then he bowed respectfully to Yixian. "Young master, I'm Big Monkey. If young master has any instructions, then Big Monkey is willing to go through water and tread on fire." Yixian was slightly stunned. This fellow really knows how to get things done. Meanwhile, Xiao suddenly said, "This fellow is extremely intelligent, and he's especially good at flattery. Little White and Area really like him." "Flattery?" Yixian roared with laughter, and then he asked Big Monkey and the other demon beasts to return to the World Prison Pagoda. This group of demon beasts were extremely strong, and they were of great help to him right now. Yixian sat down cross-legged. "Xiao Ta, give me the demon beast blood." Xiao Ta hurriedly said, "All right." As he spoke, numerous white jade bottles appeared before Yixian. Yixian withdrew a white jade bottle and consumed it. Bang! Within Yixian's body, a wave of pure energy swept out like flames. Yixian hurriedly circulated his Dao body mantra and started to absorb the energy. Cultivating Dao body. Because he had cultivated Dao body before, it was too easy for him to cultivate now. Soon, Yixian's body started to change. On a certain mountain peak, there were 4 women standing there. Mu Nianyan and 2, Higashiki and the mysterious woman. Higashiki looked at Mu Nianyan and 2 ladies, we need your help. These 2 women were extremely strong. With them around, the Undying Emperor clan would have a higher chance of winning against the Cosmos Court. Mu Nianyan nodded, "The 2 of you will stay here." Higashiki nodded, "Many thanks." The mysterious woman suddenly said, "Is there any movement from the Cosmos Court?" Higashiki said solemnly, "There's a huge movement. They're tens of starfields away from us, and we can't get close for now. However, we can sense that there are more and more experts there. Obviously, the Cosmos Court doesn't intend to give up." Mu Nianyan said, "They're calling for reinforcements." Higashiki nodded. 2 asked, "Can we stop them?" Higashiki shook his head, "It's very difficult. That God-word master's strength is too mysterious. Moreover, there seems to be a mysterious expert by his side. He should be a protector of the laws of the universe." Nian looked at 2, "We don't have enough people." Higashiki said, "I've already ordered all the experts of the Undying Emperor clan to rush back to the Undying world." At this point, she hesitated for a moment, and then said, "Can you contact that green-clothed man?" 2 shook his head. Higashiki said softly, "Looks like we'll have to fight a tough battle." With that, she turned and left. Very soon, orders were sent out from the Undying Emperor clan, and all the experts of the Undying Emperor clan rushed back to the Undying world. P.S. Recharge the book coins and monthly tickets, and explode in advance tomorrow. Also, don't call me Sister Bastard. I'll get angry. Chapter 1566. At this moment, countless experts had gathered in a certain part of the starry sky. The person in the lead was the Divine Word Master. With the Divine Order, he could mobilize all the experts in the Heaven Domain. To the right of the Divine Word Master was the Dark Hall's Hall Master. 120 people had gathered behind the Dark Hall's Hall Master. All 120 of them wore black clothes, held blood-red sickles, and emanated a ghastly aura. On the left of the Divine Word Master was a group of Divine Word Masters in white robes, and there were a total of 68 of them. Behind this group of divine preachers were more than 100 heavenly preachers. At this moment, these Divine Word Masters and Divine Word Masters were setting up teleportation arrays. There were a few dozen teleportation arrays in the starry sky behind them, and experts were streaming out from them in an endless stream. Meanwhile, a middle-aged man in armor suddenly walked out from one of the teleportation arrays. The nearby Han Dao's expression changed drastically when he saw the armored man. He immediately led the experts behind him over to the middle-aged man and knelt on one knee. General Mu. Marshal Mu Tian. The god of war of the Darksing dynasty. He controlled almost 2/3 of the Darksing dynasty's army, and he was a godlike existence in the Darksing dynasty's army. Practically all the experts of the Darksing dynasty knelt down one after another. All the experts felt heartfelt respect for this god of war. Because all those years ago, it was this god of war who'd appeared out of nowhere and stopped the divine sect's attack, protecting the Darksing dynasty. Mu Tian glanced at Han Dao. Stand up. Han Dao hurriedly stood up, and then he respectfully moved to the side. Mu Tian walked directly to the Divine Word Master, and the latter nodded slightly. General Mu. I never expected that you would come. General Mu had retired behind the scenes many years ago, and the Divine Word Master hadn't expected that General Mu would be able to come this time. Mu Tian looked the Divine Word Master in the eye. Divine Word Master, there's an ancient saying that a teacher must have a good reason. May I know why the Bloodshed God Palace has launched a large-scale attack on the 9th dimension? The Divine Word Master replied, The person of adversity. Mu Tian turned around and looked in the direction of the 9th dimension, and he said softly, Divine Word Master, can I speak freely? The Divine Word Master pondered for a moment, and then he waved his right hand lightly. A mysterious barrier appeared around him and Mu Tian. Inside the enchantment was a world of its own. The people outside couldn't hear what they said at all. Mu Tendo. In the previous battle, the universe enforcers were almost completely wiped out, and my Dashing dynasty also lost tens of thousands of soldiers. The Divine Word Master said, We have underestimated the Undying Imperial clan. Mu Tian shook his head. That's just one of the reasons. The other reason is that you don't understand the enemy. I don't understand the person of disaster, and I don't understand the Undying Emperor clan. The Divine Oracle nodded. Marshal Mu is right. Mu Tian asked again, What does Divine Oracle plan to do next? God Word's Master said, Attack the 9 dimensions. Exterminate the Undying Imperial clan. Mu Tian shook his head. The Divine Word Master hesitated for a moment before he said, Commander Mu, feel free to speak your mind if you have any thoughts. He also knew that in terms of war he was far inferior to Marshal Mu. Mu Tian looked towards the direction of the 9 dimensions. Before coming, I sent people to investigate the Undying Imperial clan and that youth, Yi Xian. I have 2 concerns. The first is the person behind Yi Xian. According to the information, there are some mysterious powerhouses behind him. As for the origins of these mysterious powerhouses, I have no idea what they are. As for the origins of these mysterious experts, we have no idea. Secondly, this person is a person of disaster, yet he is still alive. There must be someone helping him block the power of the misfortune law. Someone who can block the power of the misfortune law is definitely not someone we can fight against. If such a person appears, then no matter how many people we have, it will be meaningless. Clearly, he was worried that an extremely terrifying expert would appear. If such an expert appeared, then the army would be meaningless. At this moment, the divine oracle suddenly said, "Commander Mu, don't worry. My Cosmos God Court will deal with the peak experts." Mu Shuai glanced at the divine oracle and asked, "Are you sure?" The divine oracle said, "As long as that green-robed man and that woman don't appear, my Cosmos God Court is confident in dealing with all experts." Mu Shuai asked, "What if those two appear?" The divine oracle shook his head. "Those two have already been lured away by the universal laws. They can't appear here." Universal laws. After a moment of silence, Mu Shuai said, "We can't attack the 9 dimensions." The divine oracle looked at Mu Shuai. "Why?" Mu Shuai said softly, "If we attack the 9 dimensions, we will suffer heavy losses. Because this is not our territory. The undying imperial clan has operated here for over 1,000,000 years. Conservatively speaking, there are over 1,000,000 defensive formations in the 9 dimensions. If we attack the 9 dimensions, we will suffer heavy losses. Therefore, we must lure them out and make them take the initiative to attack us." As he spoke, he looked around. "Divine Oracle, you can let the divine oracles set up the formations now." The divine oracle was confused. "Why does Commander Mu think that they will attack us?" Mu Shuai said calmly, "The undying imperial clan is fighting us because of that Yi Xian. Yi Xian's greatest weakness is that he values relationships. According to what I know, he cares a lot about the 5 dimensions. Therefore, we don't need to attack the 9 dimensions. As long as we reveal that we are going to attack the 5 dimensions, Yi Xian will not be able to sit still. And if he can't sit still, the undying imperial clan won't be able to sit still. At that time, they will panic, and we will be able to take the initiative." The divine oracle was silent for a moment, then said softly, "Admirable." Mu Shuai said, "This time, I have brought 200,000 elites from the Great Han Dynasty. They are all peak experts. Regardless of the outcome of this battle, the Great Han Dynasty's strength will be damaged." That divine sect. The divine oracle suddenly said, "Divine sect's experts have also arrived. Their sect master is personally leading them. They will arrive in an hour at most. Moreover, after this battle, the heaven region will be peaceful for 100 years. There will not be any battles within 100 years." Mu Shuai asked, "How many experts have come from divine sect?" The divine oracle said, "All the peak experts have arrived." Mu Shuai said in a low voice, "They want to take over these worlds after this battle." The divine word master nodded. As he spoke, he turned his head and looked towards a certain direction. A man suddenly walked out from the teleportation array. He wore golden armor and a golden helmet, and he held a sheathed long blade in his hand. Seeing this man, Mu Shuai frowned. "Golden Imperial Guards." This Golden Imperial Guards was the Great Han Dynasty's emperor's personal army. They could be said to be the Great Han Dynasty's most elite army. They only obeyed the Great Han Dynasty's emperor. Mu Tian did not expect that the Great Han Dynasty's emperor would actually send his own personal army. This was staking it all on one throw. Clearly, this time, the Great Han Dynasty had not only come to help the Cosmos God Court, but also to divide the undying imperial clan's occupied worlds. To divide the undying imperial clan. At this moment, the golden armored man walked in front of Mu Shuai and bowed deeply. Golden Imperial Guards Commander Xiang Wu greets Mu Shuai. Even though he was the emperor's personal army, he did not dare to disrespect the god of war. Mu Shuai fell silent for a short while. "Does the emperor have any other instructions?" Xiang Wu spoke in a low voice. "He wants us to obey the divine oracle's orders and destroy the undying imperial clan." At this moment, the divine oracle suddenly said, "From this moment onwards, you will listen to Mu Shuai's orders." Xiang Wu bowed slightly. "Yes." The divine oracle gazed at Mu Shuai. "Mu Shuai, from this moment onwards, you will be the commander of this place." We will listen to you on how we fight this battle. He knew that this was a huge battle, and such a battle required a capable commander. He wasn't skilled in such battles, but Mu Shuai was. Mu Shuai fell silent for a short while, and then he looked towards the distance. Divine Oracle, have your men set up the formation immediately. The Divine Oracle waved his right hand, and the Divine Oracle masters behind him left silently. It didn't take long for countless fluctuations of energy to appear in the starry sky. Mu Shuai continued, Xiang Wu, hide with the Golden Imperial Guards. Don't show yourself or attack without my orders. Xiang Wu cupped his fists. Yes. Mu Shuai turned his head to look at the Dark Hall's Hall Master. Sire, according to what I know, the Undying Imperial Clan possesses a group of extremely powerful assassins. Your targets are those assassins. If those assassins do not show themselves, then do not attack. However, if they do show themselves, you must stop them. The Dark Hall's master nodded slightly. Understood. Mu Shuai gazed at the Divine Oracle. I'll leave the top-rate experts of the Undying Imperial Clan to Divine Oracle and the others. The Divine Oracle nodded. I understand. Mu Shuai turned to look at the surroundings, and it didn't take long for him to slowly close his eyes. Countless scenes had appeared in his mind. At this moment, all sorts of unexpected situations and the direction of the battle were in his mind. A short while later, Mu Shuai suddenly started issuing orders, and it didn't take long for the experts in the surroundings to get into action. Under Mu Shuai's command, the originally messy crowd became orderly. Meanwhile, the spatial passageway behind the Divine Oracle Master suddenly trembled violently, and then countless powerful auras surged out from it. The experts of the Divine Sect had arrived. Mu Tian didn't look at the spatial passageway, and his gaze was fixed on the nine-dimensional cosmos in the distance. His eyes were filled with worry. This time, the Great Qing dynasty had made a huge gamble. If they won, it would mean that they could devour the entire Undying Imperial Clan. At that time, the Great Qing dynasty would become even more powerful. However, if they lost, Mu Tian slowly closed his eyes. The reason why he had come here was very simple. He wanted to bring these soldiers back. He didn't want these soldiers to become tools, but the Great Qing dynasty had no choice but to obey the orders of the Cosmos God Court. The only thing he could do was to bring more people back. Undying Imperial Clan. Dongli Jing stood in a large hall, and in front of her were many spirit tablets. These were the spirit tablets of the Undying Imperial Clan's ancestors. At this moment, a voice suddenly rang out from within the hall. Sacrificing countless clansmen for one person, is it worth it? Dongli Jing opened her eyes. Sacrificing one person in exchange for the lives of countless people, it's definitely worth it. However, I can't do it. My Undying Imperial Clan can cut off our heads, and we can bleed, but we will never kneel to live. After saying this, she turned and left with a flick of her sleeves. FPZW. Chapter 1567. At the peak of the mountain, Yi Xian sat cross-legged. At this moment, he was emitting an extremely powerful aura. Fleshly body. He had cultivated Dao physique before, and now that he had all sorts of powerful demonic beast blood and Xiao Ta's purple aura, his cultivation was extremely smooth. At this moment, his fleshly body had reached the Dao realm. Not only that, his body had once again become a sword physique. A sword physique that was immune to swords. His current sword body was not just a little stronger than before, because he was now an ordinary sword. His sword physique was improving along with his sword Dao realm. The stronger his sword Dao realm was, the stronger his sword physique was. At this moment, Yi Xian took out another vial of demonic beast blood and drank it. Boom! His body instantly felt like it was on fire. Yi Xian hurriedly started to absorb the energy of the demonic beast blood, then used Dao scripture. Gradually, his body started to tremble. While Yi Xian was cultivating, countless Undying Emperor Clan experts rushed back to the Undying realm. At the same time, the Undying Emperor Clan experts that were in seclusion all came out. Within the Undying Palace, Dong Li Jing sat at the top of the palace. On her left and right were the two supreme elders, Dong Li Zhuo and Dong Li Xing. Below them were the elders of the 10 worlds. This time, it wasn't just the elders of the 10 worlds, there were also some core elders of the Undying Emperor clan. Even the head of the intelligence network, Nanxing, was present. At this moment, everyone was looking at Nanxing. Nanxing said solemnly, "Clan leader, elders, I have received news that the Heaven Domain experts have come out in full force. All the peak experts of the divine sect have arrived, and the Great Qing dynasty's Great Qing Emperor has not only sent over 200,000 elite experts, he has even sent his personal golden armor army. Moreover, from what I know, both factions have a hidden army. This is their final trump card. The details are unknown. For now, we do not know if they have arrived or not." Dong Li Jing said softly, "It seems like their target is not only the young master of the Undying Emperor clan, but also the entire Undying Emperor clan." Within the palace, everyone's expression was grave. This battle concerned the survival of the Undying Emperor clan. Dong Li Zhuo looked towards Nanxing. "Where are the experts from the Cosmos God Court?" Everyone looked towards the Southern Star. Compared to the Great Qing Empire and the God Sect, the Undying Emperor clan was more concerned about the Cosmos God Court. Nanxing said solemnly, "What we know is that the experts from the Cosmos God Court and Dark Hall are here. The people from the Dark Hall were all super assassins. They have fought with our shadow guards before, and they are extremely powerful. Moreover, they have more people, more than 120 of them. These people are like ghosts, and every one of them is at least a peak God realm expert. If we fight against them, we must be careful of them. Otherwise, our ordinary warriors won't be able to resist them." When he spoke up to here, he paused for a moment and said, "The ones we have to be the most careful of are the masters of words. They have several dozen holy prophecy masters and several hundred heaven prophecy masters. These people are proficient in all kinds of magical techniques and are extremely terrifying. We must be extremely careful of them." Also, Marshal Mu Tian of the Great Qing dynasty had arrived. This person had commanded the army in the Great Qing dynasty for hundreds of years and had never tasted defeat. He was known as the war god. And now, all of their troops and experts are under his command. The expressions of everyone here turned gloomy when they heard this. Obviously, the Cosmos God Court really intended to fight the Undying Imperial clan to the death. Such a battle could be said to be related to the survival of the entire Undying Imperial clan. Dong Li Xing suddenly said, "Do you have any information about the laws of the universe?" Nanxing shook his head. "We haven't been able to obtain any information about the laws of the universe. Moreover, we don't even know how many experts the Cosmos God Court has. Because our scouts are utterly unable to find out exactly where the Cosmos God Court is. Not to mention us, even the Great Qing dynasty of the Heaven region doesn't know where the Cosmos God Court is." The expressions of everyone here grew even more solemn when they heard Nanxing. The Cosmos God Court was much more mysterious than they'd imagined. Right at this moment, Dong Li Jing suddenly said, "Where's Dong Li Zhan?" Dong Li Zhan. He was the guardian of the Undying Imperial clan, and he was the commander of all the troops. Dong Li Zhuo, who stood by Dong Li Jing's side, said, "He's gone to see the young master." To see the young master? Dong Li Jing frowned when he heard this. Forbidden Mountain. On this day, a middle-aged man arrived at the peak of Forbidden Mountain. The middle-aged man wore a loose black robe, had long hair that hung loosely on his shoulders, and held a folding fan in his hand. He seemed extremely refined. He was the guardian of the Undying Imperial clan, Dong Li Zhan. In terms of combat strength, he was superior to Dong Li Jing. Actually, the guardians of the Undying Imperial clan were extremely strong. A white-haired man stood on Dong Li Zhan's left. His face was pale as a sheet, and he had his hands behind his back. He was completely devoid of any aura, and there was an image that seemed like a drop of blood on his left chest. On the other hand, there were two people standing on Dong Li Zhan's right. One of them wore a black robe and held a short saber in his right hand. He was the commander of the Undying Imperial Army, Dong Li Ao. On the other hand, there was a black-clothed man standing on Dong Liao's right. The black-clothed man wore a mask, so his appearance couldn't be seen clearly. He was the commander of the Shadow Guard. As for his name, only 2 people knew his name. One was Dong Lijian, and the other was Dong Lijing. It could be said that the Shadow Guards were the second most mysterious group of people in the undead imperial clan. 7 Star's expression changed when he saw Dong Lijian and the others. He immediately walked over to Dong Lijian and bowed deeply. "Greetings, Commander." Dong Lijian's prestige in the undying imperial clan was second only to Dong Lijing. Dong Lijian nodded slightly. "No need to be so polite." 7 Star retreated to the side. Dong Lijian looked at Yi Xian in the distance. "Is he cultivating?" Big Dipper nodded. "Cultivate the body." Dong Lijian looked at Yi Xian. After a moment, he said softly, "Ao, what do you think?" Dong Liao asked, "What aspect?" Dong Lijian smiled and said, "All aspects." Dong Liao pondered for a moment, then said, "His talent is extraordinary. He entered the mortal realm at such a young age, and his way of the sword has also entered the mortal realm. Most importantly, he has 2 top-notch bloodlines in his body. There is indeed no one in our undying imperial clan's younger generation who can compare to him." Dong Lijian asked, "What if we remove the 2 bloodlines?" Dong Liao shook his head. "No one in the younger generation can compare to him. He is not like those demonic geniuses who are raised in captivity and have no guts. He has killed his way up step by step. His ruthlessness does not lose to the peak demonic geniuses of our undying imperial clan at all. His killing intent is the best proof." Dong Lijian was silent for a moment, then asked, "What about his character?" Dong Liao smiled and said, "This person is too loyal. In Qingqing, for his sister, he did not hesitate to give up his life. In the 5th dimension, to save the people there, he almost fought to his death. When he spoke up to here, he paused for a moment before he continued. He's ruthless, but he has his own bottom line and principles. He won't stop at nothing to achieve his goals. He values relationships, but he doesn't pretend to be righteous. He's especially ruthless when facing his enemies. In short, there is no one more suitable than him to be our undying imperial clan's young master. At least in the younger generation, no one can compare to him. And with his talent, it will not be long before he surpasses the older generation." Dong Lijian looked at Dong Liao and smiled. "You value him a lot." Dong Liao nodded. "This is a person who will treat you 100 times better if you treat him well. If our undying imperial clan does not betray him, he will not betray our undying imperial clan. Moreover, he has already gradually acknowledged the undying imperial clan and has a sense of belonging to us." Dong Lijian nodded slightly and did not say anything else. Dong Liao asked, "What are you worried about?" Dong Lijian said softly, "I am not worried about anything. I simply want to see him. After all, the future of the undying imperial clan lies on him." At this time, the Shadow Guard commander suddenly said, "He is that man's son." That man. The few of them fell into silence. That man almost destroyed the undying imperial clan. After a long silence, Dong Lijian suddenly smiled and said, "But he is also my cousin's son. In his body, there is the blood of our undying imperial clan." The Shadow Guard commander did not say anything. Dong Lijian looked at the Shadow Guard commander and said, "To be honest, the grievances of the older generation have nothing to do with him. Moreover, what second uncle did back then was indeed not honorable." Dong Liao also nodded and said, "Let the grievances of the past dissipate with the wind." The Shadow Guard said softly, "I know. It is just that I feel a little indignant. Towards him, I do not have any other thoughts." Dong Liao smiled and said, "Let's not talk about the past. Let's talk about the present. From what I know, the great Qing dynasty's undefeated god of war, Mu Tian, has already arrived." As he spoke, he looked at Dong Lijian and said, "How do you plan to deal with them?" Dong Lijian took out a map. On the map, there were many starfields. This was a map of the universe drawn by the undying imperial clan. Other than the distant demon domain and heaven domain, There were records of all the other worlds and starfields. Dong Lijian looked at it for a long time and said, "If I were Mu Tian, I would not lead an army to attack the 9th dimension. Because we are fighting on our own land. Moreover, there are countless formations. If they attack the 9th dimension, they will have to pay a heavy price." So, he pointed at the map. At a certain point on the map. "If I were Mu Tian, I would use the 5th dimension as bait to lure the undying Imperial clan out and let us take the initiative to attack them. This way, they will be able to take the initiative. The side that takes the initiative to attack will be at a disadvantage." Dong Liao said in a deep voice, "How do you plan to deal with them?" Dong Lijian shook his head and said, "This is an overt plot. We can only take the initiative to attack them unless we give up on the 5th dimension. But that little guy will definitely not agree." So, at this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from afar. "I have a plan." Dong Lijian and the others looked into the distance. The person who spoke was Yi Xian. At this moment, Yi Xian's fleshly body had reached the consolidation realm. Dong Lijian looked at Yi Xian and said with a smile, "You have a plan?" Yi Xian nodded his head. Dong Lijian said, "Tell me." Yi Xian smiled and said, "Who is their main target?" "It's me. Since it's me, as long as I appear, they will take the initiative to find me." Dong Lijian said softly, "You want to use yourself as bait?" Yi Xian nodded his head. Dong Lijian looked at Yi Xian and said, "If they ignore you and directly go to the 5th dimension, you will obediently return." Yi Xian nodded his head and said, "I know. However, if I go to find someone, they will definitely come to stop me." Dong Lijian asked, "Who?" Yi Xian smiled and said, "Qing Earth." Dong Liao shook his head and said, "It's too dangerous for you to be bait." Yi Xian smiled and said, "My life is a life. Are the lives of my clansmen not a life?" Hearing this, everyone's gazes fell on Yi Xian. At this moment, everyone's gazes towards Yi Xian had changed. In a certain star field, a white-haired old man stood not far from Mu Tian. This person was the Divine Sect's sect master, Qin Xian. This Qin Xian was a veteran expert of the heaven region. Besides responding to the Cosmos Divine Court summon, he had another reason for coming here, and that was to eat the undying Emperor clan. Behind Qin Xian were countless super experts of the Divine Sect. At this moment, Mu Tian suddenly said, "Sect Master Qin Xian, please lead them to the 5th dimension." Qin Xian looked at the nearby Divine Word Master, and the latter nodded. Qin Xian was just about to lead the experts of the Divine Sect away when the space in front of the Divine Word Master suddenly trembled. In the next moment, the Divine Word Master's expression changed. "Wait!" Everyone looked at the Divine Word Master, and he said in a low voice, "Immediately seal off all the star fields outside the 9th dimension. Do not let Yi Xian leave." Mu Tian frowned. "What do you mean?" The Divine Word Master said in a low voice, "Yi Xian is going to find that woman." Mu Tian looked at the Divine Word Master, "The person behind him?" The Divine Word Master nodded. Mu Tian said in a low voice, "With Yi Xian's personality, he will definitely return to the 5th dimension if we head there." The Divine Word Master shook his head. "If he gets in contact with that woman, then it will be meaningless for all of you to go to the 5th dimension." Mu Tian stared at the Divine Word Master. "How strong is she?" The Divine Word Master was silent. This was because he did not know how strong that woman was, but he knew that she could defy the laws of the universe. Defying the laws of the universe, how terrifying was that? Mu Tian suddenly said, "If that woman is extremely strong, then why didn't Yi Xian go look for her earlier?" There is only one explanation, and that is that he cannot contact that woman. The reason why he suddenly went to look for her is to lure us into taking the initiative to attack. As long as we ignore him and send people to the 5th dimension, he will definitely turn back and take the initiative to find us. The Divine Word Master was silent. Mu Tian suddenly roared, "All Divine Word Masters, listen to my command. Immediately set up a transfer array to the 5th dimension." After entering the 5th dimension, kill everyone regardless of age or age. Leave no one alive. His voice was like thunder, shaking the starry sky. The Divine Word Masters looked at the Divine Word Master. The Divine Word Master was somewhat hesitant, and Mu Tian angrily said, "When two armies fight, the most taboo is to be fearful. Now, let's see who is more ruthless and decisive. If we hesitate, we will lose. If we lose the opportunity, countless people will be sacrificed. I will not let my people die in vain." The Divine Word Master was about to speak, but at this time, a voice suddenly came from the side. "Listen to him. Use the fifth dimension to restrain Yi Xian, but we cannot truly slaughter the beings of the fifth dimension." The one who spoke was the protector, Ma. Ma Yi softly said, "From this moment on, everyone here must listen to Marshal Mu's orders." After saying this, she glanced at the Divine Word Master. "This includes you." FPZW. Chapter 1568. Following Mai's words, the Holy Masters immediately opened up a spatial passage and forcibly built a transfer array in it. They broke through the spatial barrier and reached the fifth dimension. The fifth dimension. Not far away, Mu Tian turned to look in the direction of the ninth dimension. He had already calmed down. He understood Yi Xian very well. He knew that Yi Xian would not sit and watch the fifth dimension be massacred. Yi Xian would definitely bring the ninth dimension to attack them. And here, they had already set up thousands of arrays. If the ninth dimension attacked them, they would have a huge advantage. On the other side, Yi Xian suddenly stopped. Nan Xing appeared in front of him. Nan Xing whispered a few words and Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. The Cosmos God Court did not fall for it. Yi Xian turned to look at the end of the starry sky and frowned. This time, the enemy was not stupid at all. At this moment, Higashi Yasushi and the mysterious woman appeared beside Yi Xian. Higashi Yasushi looked at Yi Xian. "Can you contact the green-robed man or the plain-dressed woman?" Yi Xian shook his head. He could not contact the two at all. The mysterious woman suddenly said, "She is looking for the laws of the universe." Yi Xian and Higashi Yasushi looked at the mysterious woman. The mysterious woman said softly, "Her target should be the laws of the universe and the mysterious person in your body." Higashi Yasushi suddenly said, "Why doesn't she go directly to the Cosmos God Court?" The mysterious woman said solemnly, "The laws of the universe are definitely not in the Cosmos God Court. The Cosmos God Court might just be a representative of the laws of the universe. As for the Cosmos God Court, it is impossible that she does not know about it. There are only two explanations for why she did not go. First, she has more important things to do. For example, she is looking for the laws of the universe. Her ultimate goal is to kill the laws of the universe and the mysterious person in Xian Er's body. Second, she wants to leave the Cosmos God Court to Xian Er alone." At this point, she paused and said, "However, I feel that there are two reasons. If there is nothing more important, she will not leave. And now, the laws of the universe have not appeared. It is most likely because of her." Higashi Yasushi nodded. "Reasonable analysis. The truly terrifying thing about the Cosmos God Court were the laws of the universe. Up until now, the laws of the universe hadn't appeared, so there was only one explanation, and it was definitely related to the woman in a simple dress." At this moment, the mysterious woman suddenly said, "Our top priority now is to stop the people of the Cosmos God Court from entering the fifth dimension." Yi Xian looked at Dong Lijing. Dong Lijing said, "Before I came here, our people had already left the Undying Realm and headed for the star region where they are." At the same time, Miss Nian Nian and Tu have also rushed over. The two of them can fight against a magnificent army. Mindfulness and slaughter. Yi Xian nodded slightly. Most people were no match for the two of them if they joined forces. Higashi Kei looked into the distance. "Let's go. The final battle is about to begin." Yi Xian suddenly asked, "Is it worth it?" Asato looked at Yi Xian, and Yi Xian said softly, "For me alone, it's not a matter of whether it's worth it or not, it's a matter of dignity. Not to mention you, even if it's any of our clansmen, I won't take the initiative to hand them over to others and let them slaughter them. I hope that when you become the patriarch in the future, you will remember this. The undying emperor clan can't abandon a single clansman. With that, she turned and left. Yi Xian didn't speak for a long time. At this moment, the mysterious woman said softly, "Can we talk about our matters after this is over and if I'm still alive?" Yi Xian looked at the mysterious woman. She smiled slightly. "I can understand if you blame me or hate me because I'm really not a qualified mother. But I hope you can give me a chance to talk to you." Yi Xian nodded after a moment of silence. "All right." The mysterious woman smiled. "Then it's settled." Yi Xian nodded. Soon, the two of them disappeared. In a certain part of the starry sky, Mu Tian looked at the map in his hand in silence. At this moment, the starry sky in front of them suddenly trembled. Soon, the space there split open and a middle-aged man walked out. It was Dong Lijian. Mu Tian put away the map and looked at Dong Lijian. "It's not worth it for so many people to die for one person." Dong Lijian smiled. "Did you really come here just to kill the undying emperor clan's young master?" "I'm afraid not." Mu Tian looked at Dong Lijian. "Then let's fight." Dong Lijian shook his head. "There's no rush." Mu Tian looked at Dong Lijian. "I'm not in a rush either." At this moment, the holy masters behind him suddenly stopped. The spatial passage to the fifth dimension had been opened and a transmission array had been set up. As long as they entered the transmission array, they would arrive in the fifth dimension in less than 15 minutes. Mu Tian looked at Dong Lijian. "Sect leader Chen Xian, send your people to the fifth dimension." Chen Xian nodded and waved his right hand. Dozens of super experts entered the spatial transmission array. Dong Lijian's expression was still calm. Mu Tian furrowed his brows when he saw this. The other side must have something to rely on. Right at this moment, numerous shrill cries suddenly resounded from the teleportation formation. The divine sect leader's face darkened because his people were all dead. Not only that, the spatial passage was directly destroyed by the two women. At this time, a black-robed man appeared beside Mu Tian and whispered something to him. Mu Tian turned to look at the divine pronouncer and said, "There are two sword cultivators at the peak of the worldly realm in there." Divine Word Master's face darkened. He knew who Mu Tian was talking about. It was those two women. These two people were really not easy to deal with. That was because ordinary people were simply not a match for these two people. Divine Word Master looked at the divine sect leader Chen Xian. "Sect leader Chen, I'll leave these two people to sect leader Chen and your sect's supreme elder. Remember, don't fight them to the death. Just delay them." Chen Xian nodded slightly. "Yes." With that, he disappeared on the spot with an old man next to him. Mu Tian looked at the distant Dong Lijian. Dong Lijian faintly smiled and did not move. Right now, he wanted to delay, because he believed in the strength of Moon Yanyan and Tuesday. If he continued to delay, sect leader Chen Xian and Dong Lijian would definitely not be their opponents. In any case, he could not make the first move, because there were thousands of arrays in this star field. If the undying emperor clan attacked first, they would suffer heavy losses. In the distance, Mu Tian looked at Divine Word Master. "Can the two of them defeat those two women?" Divine Word Master shook his head. With the strength of those two women, even he might not be able to fight one of them alone. Only the protectors could contend against those two women. As for Chen Xian and Dong Lijian, they could only delay them. Seeing Divine Word Master shake his head, Mu Tian's face darkened. If this continued, it would be disadvantageous to their side. Mu Tian suddenly looked at the distant Mai. "Miss Mai, please go to the fifth dimension." Mai looked at Mu Tian. "Slaughter the star field?" Mu Tian nodded, his eyes cold. "Directly slaughter them so that they have no choice but to attack us." Mai shook her head. "The beings of the fifth dimension have not done anything wrong. They cannot be slaughtered. You can use the fifth dimension to threaten the calamity entity, but you cannot truly slaughter the fifth dimension." Mu Tian's face darkened. "Miss Mai, this is a life or death situation. On the battlefield, one must be unscrupulous, Ma Yi looked straight at Mu Tian. We are the protectors of the laws of the universe, and the duty of the laws is to protect the peace and order of the universe, not to slaughter living beings. The Undying Emperor clan forcefully protected the Calamity entity, so they should be punished. However, the beings of the fifth dimension did not interfere in this matter, so what wrong did they do? Mu Tian's face turned ugly. Miss Ma Yi, we are currently at war. War itself is cruel, so we cannot be merciful. Ma Yi suddenly interrupted Mu Tian. Marshal Mu Tian, war is indeed cruel, but our goal is not to slaughter living beings, but to protect the beings of the universe, to maintain order in the universe. If we slaughter living beings for our goal, then what is the point of us protecting it? Mu Tian stared at Ma Yi. Then what about our people? We came all the way here, are our lives not important? Ma Yi shook her head. Marshal Mu Tian, back then when the Cosmos God Court helped the Great Qing Dynasty, the Great Qing Dynasty promised that they would not reject any request of the Cosmos God Court. There is a cause and effect. This is what the Great Qing Dynasty owes us. Moreover, you came here for benefits, not because of the Cosmos God Court's call. You also want to borrow the power of the Cosmos God Court to destroy the Undying Emperor clan, then divide this universe. Mu Tian went silent. In the past, the Cosmos God Court had indeed helped the Great Qing Dynasty. Moreover, as Ma Yi had said, the Great Qing Emperor's goal was to divide the Undying Emperor clan's territory. Ma Yi turned and looked into the distance. The Cosmos God Court started a war to protect the order of the universe, to prevent the Calamity entity from continuing to live, not to slaughter living beings. Marshal Mu Tian, Yi Xian is a person with the adversity body, but the fifth dimension isn't. Hence, our Cosmos God Court will only target him and those who help him. If the fifth dimension doesn't help him, we won't massacre the fifth dimension. Mu Tian looked at Ma Yi. Then what do you think we should do? Should we take the initiative to attack? Ma Yi said, if I head to the fifth dimension, they will definitely send people to stop me. Therefore there is no point. Now that they have left the ninth dimension, we do not need to forcefully attack the ninth dimension. Our goal has been achieved, so let's attack. Otherwise, when the two swordsmen are free, the situation will be even more disadvantageous to us. Mu Tian went silent. He still wanted to use the fifth dimension to make the Undying Emperor clan hesitate. Because if their blade fell into the fifth dimension, the Undying Emperor clan would definitely be the ones who would not be able to sit still. However, the Cosmos God Court did not allow it. How pedantic! Damn faith! Mu Tian took in a deep breath, then roared, where is the Great Qing cavalry? Behind him, close to 60,000 cavalry roared in unison, their voices like thunder, shaking the starry sky. Mu Tian pointed at Dong Lijian and roared, Undying Emperor clan, hand over one person in exchange for countless lives. This is your Undying Emperor clan's last chance. Dong Lijian went silent. To the side, Ma Yi looked to Dong Lijian. If you are willing to hand over the person with the disaster body, the Undying Imperial clan can continue to exist. Dong Lijian suddenly laughed and said, come and fight. Mu Tian suddenly raised his right hand and waved it down. Cavalry! Charge! Over 60,000 cavalrymen suddenly roared in unison and charged towards Dong Lijian in the distance. The charge of the cavalry shook the starry sky. Dong Lijian suddenly said, where are the Undying Blood Cavalry? I'm here. Behind Dong Lijian, a deafening roar resounded like thunder. Then, a large area of space suddenly split open, and in the next moment, more than 1,000 undead blood cavalry charged out. Dong Lijian looked at the 60,000 cavalrymen charging over from afar. Kill! Kill! More than 1,000 cavalrymen raised their spears and roared. In the next moment, they all rushed out. 1,000 versus 60,000. The cavalry of both sides clashed, and the starry sky was torn apart by their stomps. At this moment, Dong Lijian suddenly said, "Dao soldier." As soon as he finished speaking, the space behind him suddenly split open, and tens of thousands of people walked out. Undying Dao soldier. A total of 40,000 people. All of the undying imperial clan's Dao soldiers were here. The leader was the commander of the Tao soldiers, Dong Liting. Dong Lijian looked at the 200,000 elite soldiers behind Mu Tian. Devour them. Kill. 40,000 people roared in unison. In the next moment, 40,000 people charged into the sky. 40,000 versus 200,000. They didn't have an advantage in numbers, but their momentum was unstoppable. Obviously, this was going to be a decisive battle. Mu Tian's expression was calm. "Infantry, step out." Behind him, 200,000 soldiers walked out in unison, their steps orderly. Mu Tian was expressionless. "Kill." 200,000 soldiers charged forward. At this moment, the surrounding space suddenly trembled. In the next moment, countless experts charged out. They were all experts from the Undying clan. There were hundreds of thousands of them. These were all experts from the Undying Imperial clan from the 7th and 8th dimensions, as well as the 10 realms. The Undying Imperial clan didn't have many elites, but they had a lot of ordinary experts. After all, they controlled 3-dimensional universes and the 10 realms. Against the Cosmos God Court, these ordinary experts wouldn't be very useful. But against the soldiers of the Great Qing dynasty, these experts weren't weak at all. The sudden appearance of hundreds of thousands of experts caused Mu Tian's expression to change. The Great Qing dynasty was already inferior in terms of quality against the Undying Imperial clan. And now, they were being suppressed in terms of numbers. How could they win? Mu Tian turned to look at the Divine Word Master, who suddenly said, "Attack." Behind him, dozens of Holy Word Masters and hundreds of Heaven Word Masters started chanting incantations. In the next moment, the entire starry sky trembled violently. Soon, countless mysterious lightning bolts appeared out of nowhere in the surrounding starry sky. Not only were there lightning bolts, there were also countless wind blades and densely packed fireballs, techniques. Dozens of Holy Word Masters and Heaven Word Masters used their techniques together. How terrifying was that? In just an instant, over 10,000 Undying Imperial clan experts were killed. Seeing this, Dong Lijian's expression sank. The strength of these Heaven Word Masters was too terrifying. Ordinary experts weren't a match for them. Dong Lijian suddenly said, "Shadow guards." Just as he finished speaking, over 100 shadows suddenly charged at the Holy Word Masters and Heaven Word Masters. These were the assassins that the Undying Imperial clan had meticulously nurtured. The 19 people that had been following Yi Xian were the elites of the Shadow Guards. However, before these 100 people could approach the Heaven Word Masters, they were blocked by a group of black-clothed people. Darkhold. This group of people were also assassins. Both sides didn't waste any words and immediately started fighting. Both sides were assassins, and the fight was extremely strange. Only saber light could be seen, but not a single person could be seen. At this moment, Mu Tian suddenly said, "Divine Sect Dao soldiers." As soon as he finished speaking, thousands of Divine Sect experts charged out. Their target was none other than the Undying Blood Cavalry. Mu Tian knew that as long as they dealt with the Undying Blood Cavalry, the Great Qing dynasty's cavalry would be able to attack the Dao soldiers. Cavalry had a huge advantage against infantry. Thousands of Divine Sect Dao soldiers were the Divine Sect's elite experts. If they were allowed to join the battle between the two sides, it would be extremely disadvantageous to the Undying Blood Cavalry. Dong Lijian suddenly said, "Feather God Guards." As soon as he finished speaking, thousands of arrows suddenly pierced through the sky and blocked the thousands of Divine Sect Dao soldiers. After blocking the Divine Sect Dao soldiers, the Feather God Guards continued to attack. Thousands of arrows suddenly shot into the sky and headed straight for the Great Qing dynasty's cavalry. The Great Qing dynasty's cavalry commander's expression changed drastically, and he immediately roared, "Outer cavalry, defend." As soon as he finished speaking, the great Qing dynasty's cavalry suddenly took out a shield and quickly closed in. Boom, 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 boom. Most of the arrows were blocked by the shield, but over 1,000 people died. At this moment, the undying blood cavalry arrived. In an instant, the formation of the great Qing dynasty's cavalry was broken. Over 1,000 of them died, and their corpses slowly fell from the sky. Just as the Feather God Guards were about to attack, the divine sect Dao soldiers charged towards the Feather God Guards. Dong Lijian retracted his gaze and looked to the other side. At this moment, the undying Emperor clan experts that were called over from other worlds were dying at a terrifying speed. Those Master Yen were too terrifying. A few hundred people actually killed hundreds of thousands. He had to get rid of these Master Yen. These Master Yen were the peak experts of the Cosmos God Court. Not to mention these ordinary experts, even some of the undying Emperor clan's elites weren't their match. This was a complete suppression of battle power. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly appeared in front of Dong Lijian. Yi Xian looked at the Master Yen. "Leave them to me." As he spoke, he walked towards the sky. Seeing this scene, Dong Lijian's expression changed. "Clan Guardian." As he spoke, over 100 people suddenly charged out from the space behind him. These people were all young people, the geniuses of the Undying clan's younger generation. All of them were at the Heavenway realm. The Undying Emperor clan's nurturing of these geniuses even surpassed the fallen Undying Emperor army. Because these people were the true future of the Undying Emperor clan. Dong Lijian looked at the young man leading them. "Dong Liqing, from now on, you will listen to young master's orders." The young man called Dong Liqing cupped his fists. "Understood." As he spoke, he led the 120 people behind him and followed Yi Xian. Dong Lijian didn't stop Yi Xian because he knew that since Yi Xian dared to say that, he definitely had a way. At this moment, the eyes of Ma Yi and the rest also fell on Yi Xian. This time, her target was Yi Xian. Kill Yi Xian, the sinner of disaster. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly opened his palm, and a box appeared in his hand. Ma Yi and the rest frowned when they saw the box. "What's that?" At this moment, a voice suddenly resounded in Ma Yi's mind. "Ma Yi, you'd better stop this guy." Ma Yi didn't hesitate and said directly, "Stop him." As soon as she finished speaking, Mu Tian suddenly said, "Gold-armored army." A group of golden-armored guards charged towards Yi Xian. There were thousands of them. These were the true elites of the Darxing dynasty. Dong Liqing was about to attack when he saw them charging towards him, but Yi Xian stopped them. He waved his right hand, and a group of demon beasts appeared in front of him. A monkey, a chicken, a sheep, a pig. Yi Xian looked at the monkey. "Big monkey, go." The monkey picked up an iron rod and rushed out. It swung the rod at the enemy. Boom. Dozens of golden-armored guards were directly crushed by its staff. After it rushed into the crowd, its fighting style began to change. It used its rod to sweep people's crotches. Who could withstand that? It didn't take long for shrill cries to resound in the starry sky. When the monkey attacked, the pig rammed into the group of golden-armored guards as well. Boom. With this collision, nearly 100 golden-armored powerhouses were directly smashed into meat paste. After killing them, it immediately began to eat. While eating, it continued to smash. At the same time, the chicken and the sheep also rushed into the crowd. The way the sheep fought was the same as the pig. It would headbutt anyone it saw. This headbutt was enough to cause space itself to collapse. As for the chicken, it specialized in headbutting people's butts. Who knew who taught it to do this? The chicken's fighting style was slightly terrifying as well. It directly chopped at anyone it saw, and it specialized in chopping at the head. Once it did, it would die. The sound of people's heads breaking resounded incessantly. The demon beasts directly crushed the group of golden-armored guards. Everyone in the surroundings was stunned. What the hell are they? Meanwhile, Yi Xian took the opportunity to open the box. Chapter 1570. As soon as the box was opened, a fluffy white little fellow crawled out from within. At the instant that the white little fellow crawled out, the spirit energy in the surroundings suddenly surged uncontrollably towards her. It was an extremely strange scene. At this moment, the gazes of countless people shot towards the white little fellow, and their eyes were filled with curiosity. What's that? Meanwhile, Xiaota suddenly appeared in front of the white little fellow, and he seemed extremely happy. White. The white little fellow rubbed her drowsy eyes. She grinned when she saw Xiaota, and then she rubbed Xiaota lightly before she gazed at Yixian. Meanwhile, Yixian didn't say a word and immediately took out a candied haw and passed it to the white little fellow. The white little fellow's eyes instantly lit up when she saw the candied haw, and she took it and started licking it. It was still that familiar white little fellow. The divine prophet stared fixedly at the white little fellow, the spirit patriarch. As he spoke, his expression gradually became solemn. Meanwhile, Yixian suddenly said, "White, help me fight, all right?" The white little fellow gazed at Yixian, and Yixian immediately withdrew another candied haw. The white little fellow's eyes narrowed as she took the candied haw, and then she nodded swiftly. Yixian hurriedly turned around and pointed at the group of divine prophet. "Quickly stop them." The white little fellow glanced at the divine prophet, blinked, and then waved her little claw. Bang! In an instant, the lightning, fire, and wind in the starry sky vanished without a trace. All of them had vanished. Both sides were stunned when they witnessed this scene. The divine prophets started to execute their techniques again, and it didn't take long for countless strands of formidable elemental energy to converge in the starry sky. Meanwhile, the white little fellow waved her claw again. Bang! The elemental energy vanished without a trace. The divine prophets were dumbfounded. The white little fellow licked the candied haw, and then she grinned as she gazed at the divine prophets. It seemed like she was telling them to continue. The divine prophets were about to attack, but they were stopped by the divine prophet. The divine word master looked at the little white fellow below. "Spirit ancestor, as the spirit ancestor, why are you helping the person with the adversity body?" The little white fellow licked her sugar-coated haws and pointed at Yixian with her little claw before pointing at herself. Obviously, she meant that Yixian was in cahoots with her. The divine oracle looked at the little white guy. "He is a sinner of misfortune." The little white fellow blinked and continued to lick the tonghalu. She didn't understand what the divine wordmaster was saying at all. What sinner of misfortune? Is it better than candied haws? The divine wordmaster's face sank. Fuck, he discovered that he couldn't communicate with the spirit ancestor. And at this time, the undying Emperor clan experts that were blocked by Teacher Yen had already charged towards the group of Great Qing Dynasty soldiers. With the addition of these experts, how could the Great Qing Dynasty resist? Mu Tian immediately turned to look at the Divine Word Master in the distance. The Divine Word Master suddenly took a step forward and gently pressed down with his right hand. This pressure caused countless bolts of lightning to gather in the starry sky. In the next instant, these bolts of lightning descended in a straight line. In an instant, a formless pressure came crashing down, as if it wanted to shatter the starry sky. Below, Yixian opened his palm and a sword appeared in his hand. He was prepared to attack at any time. At this moment, the little white fellow sniffed. In an instant, the divine lightning in the starry sky became illusory and gradually disappeared. Seeing this scene, Yixian was stunned. Gone just like that? In the starry sky, the divine oracle's expression also froze. He didn't expect that his divine lightning would disappear just like that. Below, the little white fellow licked her sugar-coated haws with a harmless look. At this time, the group of experts from the Great Qing Dynasty had already been defeated. This was because the undying Emperor clan's side had already crushed the Great Qing Dynasty and God sect in terms of numbers. Mu Tian looked at the divine oracle. He stared at the divine oracle with a gaze as sharp as a knife. The Cosmos God Court can no longer hold back. He knew that the Cosmos God Court was definitely holding back. The divine oracle suddenly turned to look at Ma Yi understood and immediately floated towards the little white fellow below. They had to get rid of this little white fellow. Otherwise, the divine oracles would be crippled. Seeing Ma Yi floating towards him, Yixian suddenly pulled out his sword. A sword hummed soared into the sky. In the sky, Ma Yi suddenly slapped down with her palm. Boom! A wave of sword light shattered. Yixian was directly sent back to his original position. The moment he landed, his fleshly body split apart. At this moment, the little white fellow waved its little claw and a purple aura enveloped Yixian. In an instant, Yixian's cracked fleshly body returned to normal. At this time, Ma Yi had already appeared in front of Yixian and the little white fellow. Just as she was about to attack, a figure suddenly appeared in front of her. Boom! The space in front of Yixian directly exploded. The person who attacked was the Undying Emperor clan's patriarch, Dongli Jing. Dongli Jing looked at Ma Yi and waved her sleeves. "Your opponent is me." As she finished speaking, she disappeared from her original position. In the distance, Ma Yi suddenly punched out. With this punch, everyone in the starry skies seemed to stop. Domain. This was a martial domain, and no ordinary martial domain. In the martial domain, Dongli Jing's pupils constricted. She clenched her right hand, and the undying bloodline in her body suddenly boiled. In an instant, the power of her bloodline enveloped her body. After the power of her bloodline enveloped her body, Dongli Jing directly punched out. Had a rumble. As a shocking explosion resounded, the two women simultaneously retreated. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of Dongli Jing. The Dark Hall's Hall Master. Obviously, he wanted to kill Dongli Jing. If he could assassinate the Undying Emperor clan's clan master, the Undying Emperor clan's morale would definitely plummet. Unfortunately, as soon as he appeared in front of Dongli Jing, a black figure silently appeared behind him. The person who attacked was the Undying Emperor clan's Shadow Guard commander. He had actually been watching the Dark Hall's Hall Master all this time. After the Shadow Guard's commander appeared, the Dark Hall's Hall Master suddenly disappeared. The Shadow Guard's commander also disappeared. It was as if the two of them had never appeared. Dongli Jing looked at Lini in the distance. She slowly clenched her right hand, and the undying bloodline within her surged madly. Since she possessed the undying bloodline, so long as she wasn't instantly killed, she wasn't afraid of anyone in a battle of attrition. Suddenly, the space in the distance split open, and then two rays of light flew out. The two who came out were Mu Niannian and Tu. In their hands were two bloody skulls. They were the heads of the Divine Sect's Sect Master and Supreme Elder. The two women had killed two people. The expressions of the experts from the Divine Sect changed drastically when they saw this. Mu Niannian turned to look at the linen robe not far away. She had suddenly vanished, and at this moment, the Divine Word Master suddenly chanted an incantation. In the next instant, countless blood-red talismans appeared around Mu Niannian. Mu Niannian slashed down with her sword. Boom! The talisman exploded into pieces. But right at this moment, bolts of lightning struck down towards the top of her head. Mu Niannian's expression was calm. She stomped her right foot lightly, and then she transformed into a ray of light that shot into the sky. The Divine Word Master was about to attack. Meanwhile, Yixian hurriedly said, "Little fellow, help him out." The white little fellow blinked, looked at the Divine Word Master, and raised her little claw. The Divine Word Master had just started chanting when the spirit energy around him was instantly sucked dry. The Divine Word Master was stunned. What did a Divine Word Master need the most? Spirit energy and elemental energy. But at this moment, the spirit energy around him had been sucked dry. It wasn't just the spirit energy that had been sucked dry, even the elemental energy around him was gone. What's this? The Divine Word Master gazed at the white little fellow below him. The white little fellow grinned, and she seemed completely harmless. She's still smiling? The Divine Word Master was slightly stunned. Is she mocking me? Meanwhile, Mu Niannian suddenly appeared in front of him. His expression changed drastically, and he immediately flashed backwards. This single flash allowed him to move over 3 kilometers away. Mu Niannian's sword slashed through the air. Yixian suddenly said, "Big Sister Nian, Kill those divine words. Mu Niannian immediately turned around and charged at those divine words when he heard Yi Xian. The expressions of those divine words changed drastically, and they were about to start chanting when the white little fellow suddenly raised her claw and waved it lightly. In an instant, the spirit energy and elemental energy in an area of over 3 kilometers were completely sucked dry. All the divine words masters were rendered useless. The divine words masters were stunned. At this time, Mu Niannian had already arrived. In the blink of an eye, 5 holy diviners were killed. After the divine words masters' techniques were rendered useless, their combat strength was simply too weak. The divine word master's expression changed drastically when he witnessed this scene, and he suddenly roared furiously, "Where's the Tendo?" The Tendo! Only the Tendo could gather spirit energy once more. If the Tendo could gather spirit energy once more, then they could still fight. So, he immediately summoned the Tendo. The Cosmos Divine Court controlled the order of the entire universe, and the Tendo everywhere had to give them face. Bang! A formidable aura suddenly appeared in the starry sky. As soon as this formidable aura appeared, the entire starry sky started to tremble, and the spirit energy in the surroundings fluctuated slightly. Then, a figure gradually condensed silently. The Tendo! It was the Tendo of this starry sky. It wasn't particularly strong, but it wasn't weak either. The white little fellow glanced at the Tendo and continued to lick the candied haws, and there was a trace of greed in her eyes. The Tendo's spirit energy is even more abundant. The divine word master took out the divine order and gazed at the Tendo. "I order you to immediately mobilize all the spirit energy here and replenish it for us." The Tendo paid no attention to the divine word master, and she gazed at White instead. She fell silent for a moment before she looked at the divine word master and roared furiously, "Replenish your mother's head." With that, she disappeared. He had confirmed with his eyes that he could not afford to offend this person. This was the spirit ancestor. Replenish spirit chi? Once this little guy breathed in, not to mention spiritual chi, even she, a Tendo, could absorb it all. Snatching spirit chi from the spirit ancestor? Wasn't that like entering the latrine with a lantern? At this moment, the escaping Tendo was extremely frustrated. Was there something wrong with the Cosmos God Court? He told her to deal with the spirit ancestor. That was the spirit ancestor. It was as if he was asking his son to beat his father. Aren't you pushing me into a fire pit? You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.